Yes, y'all. We are back another week, another Saturday night, another Saturday night. Shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who's here already. I see daily affirmations by Pauline. It's out there on time saying good evening. So good evening to you. Thank you for being here. You know what it is. I like to jump on here early just to give you guys a heads up as to what we'll be discussing tonight. Tonight, hold on a second. Tonight, we will be discussing why you don't say biracial is black. That's a continuation of a prior conversation that we had. We're going to be discussing why is India refining African oil? Are there no others to do the job in Namibia? So it sounds like a story where Indians in Namibia, an African country, is refining oil. We're going to try to answer the question, why can't the government of Tanzania let the people live in peace? Shout out to Pro-Black Perspective. That's Oni, who's out there right now. We're going to look at a scenario and ask, is this how Nigerian government works? So we're talking about some continental things tonight. And then finally, we're going to be discussing why are we, black folks, still blaming the white man, the yellow man, for the downfall of the black man. This pertains to a race. You guys may have seen it a couple weeks ago. A race where some Africans allowed a Asian to win the race. So we'll talk about that tonight. What I'm going to do now is start the show officially. What I need you guys to do, anyone who can hear my voice, please share the link of the episode of the live stream to your social media. I did it already earlier today. I hope you guys do it as well. Kofi the Black Critic is out there in the chat. I saw him share the last episode we did on his channel. I appreciate that, Kofi. So you guys do similarly. Hit the like button, share the episode to your socials. And on the other side of the intro, I will introduce any and all panelists that I have tonight. And by the way, you all are invited to join the panel. Just click the link at the top of the chat and you can join too. So what we're going to do now is start the show officially. And on the other side, I will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 and introduce any and all panelists. So do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Right, we're back. Someone needs to mute the mic. We're back. I want to thank everyone who's here so far. Thank everyone who will be here tonight. Let me welcome in my panelists so far. I really appreciate you guys for coming through. Let me start with Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing great, Koku. How's everybody on the panel? I hope you're all doing well today.
Appreciate you being here. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Thanks for being here. Let's go to Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
Koku, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm trying out these new microphones. I'm good. I hope all the brothers are well on the panel. I hope all the sisters and brothers are also good who are listening in. Koku, about that question that you was asking earlier, you could, refer to Black Steel about it. He should probably have some good information on what you was requesting. Okay.
Sure thing. And your mic sounds good, by the way. Really good. So thanks for being here as well. Last but not least, let's welcome in our boy Oni from the Pro Black Perspective. Oni, how are you this week?
I'm cool. Didn't get much sleep tonight, but I'll try. Everything's cool, man.
I appreciate you for even coming through here. I know your time there is different than here, and it's early in the morning or late at night, whatever you want to look at it. So I appreciate you being here at all. So thank you. Without further ado, let's get right into Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. Anyone who wants to join, click the link. It's pinned to the top of the chat. You too can be a panelist tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says, this is why you don't say biracial is black. Biracial plus white is white. This came, as per usual, with a link that's taken us to Twitter. This is a post from Sugar, December 12/18, coldest, whatever that means. It says the hate for black women is insane. So we're going to watch this video. It's a short one. We might watch it twice, and then we'll discuss it.
See, that's why I don't date black women. I shouldn't have said that. Man, you don't think I should have said that. Man, it's fine. I don't date them neither. If that first one, I was like, I gave y'all a shot. No, I'm going to go to another race. I could make a black kid with a white person if I want to. I don't need your black ass to make one. Black is the dominant gene. I can get a Korean. that kid's going to come out a Negro. Yep. Don't need you. But anyway, that was, how you going to tell, like, you're a runner. See, that's why I don't date black women. I shouldn't have said that. Man, you don't think I should have said that. Man, it's fine. I don't date them neither. If that first one, I was like, I gave y'all a shot. No, I'm going to go to another race. I could make a black kid with a white person if I want to. I don't need your black ass to make one. Black is the dominant gene. I can get a Korean. that kid's going to come out a Negro. Yep. Don't need you. But anyway, that was, how you going to tell, like, you're a runner. See, that's why I don't date black women.
Yeah. So this is the problem I tend to have. And this is where, this is the problem I tend to have. The vitriol against black women just needs to stop. From black men, be them biracial or straight up black men or whatever. But the vitriol needs to stop. Me personally, I'm about holding people accountable. And you guys should listen to Brother Bakari's show earlier today. I still have to finish the last maybe half hour or so because I was driving when he was doing the live stream. But this is why I say you have to have a standard. You don't have to hate on black women. Just hold them to a standard. These guys just straight up hate black women. I don't know if they have white mamas or what the deal is with them. I think this is those twins who are out there, the Tatum twins or something like that. I'm not too familiar with their work, but I know they're kind of self-hating black folks. But this is the problem. When you straight up have hate for black women, I don't at all fuck with you like that. Kofi in the chat says, yeah, these are. Oh no, Kofi said correct, but Bakari says these are the Hodge twins. So this is another set of Coonan twins out here, I guess. And by the way, thanks to all of you out there who joined us. But this is the problem I have with the vitriol. We don't need to have vitriol against black women. Just hold them accountable. That's all. With that said, Black Steel, what say you to what you just saw as it relates to the prompt?
So fuck these guys. I've never been a fan of Hodge twins. They started off as some sort of, black conservatives, and now there's a lot of money in Coonan, there's a lot of wealth to be made from talking bad about black people, black women, black men. There's a lot of money to be made. So that's they got the American flag. I don't know who's white, their mom or their dad. I don't really know. So as to the prompt, you don't say biracial is black. So I'm of two minds about this situation, because people don't choose their parents, right? And throughout our history, right, many times through straight up rape, many black people have white DNA in them. I know in my family, we got somewhere back pre antebellum slavery, we had some white people in the mix. They really didn't have a choice in the matter. So that's why I remember what Steve Biko said, that being black is more than just your pigmentation. It's a matter of your mental attitude. So I think that's important too. These dudes, I don't care who birthed them, black man, white mom, or whatever. These are. I mean, again, their mental attitude determines their position. And these are not black men. These are what we call graham crackers, right? They're still crackers. They got a little melanin, but they still graham crackers, and they don't desire to be black. Like, the one said, I don't mess with black women, right? So is he biracial? He don't get with a white woman. His children are gonna end up white within 2 or 3 generations. They're gonna look, blonde hair, blue eye. Look at what happened with Diana Ross. Look what happened with Eartha Kitt. Her granddaughter's a white woman. Because she was biracial, she got with a white man, and boom. So I think that these people right here, of course, there's a lot of money to be made in it. I think where you come from has to be your mentality. I think so, because there's been, especially at least here in the United States, right? They don't really differentiate biracial, right? So you're just a nigga to them, and you will be treated as such. And because of that, there's a lot of black people who are biracial, who have been rejected by the white side of their family, their white mom, their white dad, their white grandparents, cousins. They get rejected by them. And because of that, the black people tend to be the only ones who are truly accepting of mixed race people. And because of that, many of them identify as black, more so than identify as white, I think. Because white people, you talk about biracial people, white people, those are niggas. And they really don't want them to be known. I was in a relationship with a woman who was, her mother was white, her father was black. And she would talk about how her white side of the family didn't really mess with her. In fact, when she was little, her grandfather made her play inside the house because he didn't want his neighbors to know he had a black grandchild. He didn't say biracial, he said black. So it seems as though we have this conversation quite often, but I kind of feel like it's not something that's set in stone, like a case by case basis. I think because biracial people, at least, and I'm going by just the United States, other places, they have a certain designation for biracial people. In South Africa, they call them the coloreds. Latin America, they have a mestizo or mulatto class or whatnot. Whereas especially here in the United States, there's no buffer class between black and white. You're either black or you're white, and they're gonna treat you accordingly based on how you are perceived to them, not to us, but to them. So that kind of leads to some confusion. I'll leave it here. I'll let some other people talk. Thanks, Sophie.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. In the chat, Trigger Happy said being black has to be a combination of your culture and lineage. No non-black can ever be black. Therefore, quote unquote, mindset is not enough on its own. He says to some black people, if a white person practices a culture, they are supposedly black. So I just want to put that out. Sorry, I just want to put that out there for the remainder of you who are going to respond. Let's go to Buana next. Buana, what say you?
Yeah, for me, I would just, in terms of, first of all, well, let me address them first, because the whole biracial thing, for me, it is mindset. I have to say here what it is that you have to say, because as Black Steel was saying, they are not responsible for how they came to this planet. Not responsible for that. But as when you reach the age of reason, you start looking at the world and perceiving certain things. Now, you may have had self-hating grandparents, black parents who may have hated each other. You may have a white parent who may enforce attitudes of anti-blackness. So now, a generation later, this is what's coming out. You know, but ultimately, you have to decide what part of the fence you want to be on. But I've heard people like Tommy Sotomayor, who's black as charcoal, make the same kinds of statements. So for me, he is a white man too. But needless to say, just only in blackface. So if for me, I look more so at the content and the mindset of people in terms of what these guys were saying of black women. Black women at every stage in my life has saved my life in various different ways. Various different ways. If these black men or whatever they define themselves as wants to denigrate black women, that's on them. I won't do that. Brother Bakari was preaching earlier, or lecturing earlier, about having a standard. You know, am I critical of some things when we talk about relationship matters and between male and female? Of course, absolutely. But this idea of just denigrating black women and saying, listen how he addresses the black woman. You know, obviously, he has some issues and attitudes towards black women that I don't know what he went through. But for me personally, you know, I don't cut the mustard that thin. And when we talking about black women, I'm talking about women now, because as Brother Bakari was saying, there is a standard for me on what a woman is. Can't just be someone with female body parts. No. That don't cut the mustard. You know, there should be some criteria involved or conditions involved before I could give you the title of woman. The title of woman for me, not speaking for everybody, but in terms of what these guys was talking about, you know, I look at the mindset and the content, because if they do have black parents, because there are many biracial people who have black parents, but they have a white parent, but they consider themselves black people. You know, I don't know what you want me to. I'm not gonna look at them as my enemy, because they had no say so in how they came to the world. But they are black people. They are black people. You know, based on that content. These guys, to me, these guys are white men. They have vitriol and hatred for black folks. But just as I look at them, because these people are biracial, I can't take these guys and pin all biracials from these particular gentlemen. Just as I can't look at Tommy Sotomayor, who's black like charcoal, and say, oh, all black men think like this because he's this. No, I can't do that. That's a logical fallacy. So for me, I just would have to look more in regards to their content and what these guys have in their heart. You know, what they have in their mindset. For me, it go a little bit beyond skin complexion. What category I'd be inclined to put them in, but I'll leave it there.
Bono, before you go, and thank you for that, but before you go, and I'm going to also go back and ask Black Steel this. Trigger Happy asked an interesting question. Looking forward, so these men are biracial, but if these men had it in them to go and get them a black woman, would you consider that an interracial relationship or a black relationship?
But we was discussing this before. It depends on what these guys describe themselves as. You know, if these guys describe themselves, if he says I'm mixed race, if he acknowledges both sides of himself, I'm white. And when I say white, that comes along with the culture, a cultural aspect of himself, and I'm black. Both of these things together with a black woman. You know, now it is a mixed relationship. It is an interracial relationship because you can't separate the white part of it, the man self. So 50% of him will be dating a black woman. So of course it's an interracial relationship. But what about the black element of himself as well? You can't split the human being in half. So it goes down to mindset. It goes down to culture. It goes down to how that man perceives himself to be. How he was raised. If he was raised as a black man, it's two black people dating each other, and I have no problem with saying that, and I don't run away from that. If he had a white father, but in the household he was raised by a black mother, single parent, all his relatives are black people. He was raised in black culture. What is he gonna date that woman with? He is gonna give her all the ideas of his black reality. You know, what he lived growing up, what he's been experiencing, all the food, all that comes in. If he knows nothing of his white parent, if he knows nothing about his white parent, you know, am I gonna still label him as no, I can't do that, man. For me, like I say, to me, it's more, you know, it has to do with content and mindset. You know, content and mindset. You know, I have to understand these things as well. These things come in too. So I'll just leave it there for now.
No, I appreciate that, Bwana. Let me go back to Black Steel and ask that same question. Black Steel, if a biracial guy decides to go back and be with a black woman, would you consider that an interracial relationship?
Well, does the biracial person, are they black? So that goes back to the question. If the biracial person is white, then yes, it is. But if they're black, then no, it's not. They would just be a black relationship. So, and again, it also depends on where you are in the world. In the U.S., no, it wouldn't be considered an interracial relationship because, again, biracial people are considered to be black. You don't call Obama the first biracial president; he's the first black president. You know, and that's how it is. That's how black people are classified. And unfortunately, because black people do not have the power are not in a position of power in society to determine our reality, that reality is determined for us. So in the US, I would say that's like, okay, so would you say Obama and Michelle are in an interracial relationship? No, you just people say they're a black couple for all the fucked up things they do. They're responsible for. No one says they're in an interracial relationship. They're just a black couple. So that's how I would look at it. I guess because, like I said, it really depends on where you are in the world, I suppose. Because a lot of places don't have the classification of biracial. So I'll leave it there.
I appreciate it, Black Steel. Let's welcome in our boy. Been a while since we've seen him up here. Well, good to see him here tonight. Let's welcome our boy D-Web to the panel. D-Web, how are you this week?
Hey, what's going on, Goku, man? Chilling. Figure I ain't been up here a while, man. I holler at y'all real quick. I might not be able to stay the entire episode, but I figure I'd come and say what's up to my people, man. Miss y'all.
Appreciate you for coming through, man.
Yeah.
Any opinions on this, pro?
I'll keep it real brief because I know y'all probably at the end of this one, but it's first of all, the Hodge twins, and they super cooning it up anyway. I don't even have to listen to the damn thing to know what they're talking about. But I think I've seen this clip before. And then the problem, I think, when it comes to America, if you notice, most cultures, most places around the world actually have a term. I think Black Steel's kind of alluding to this for mixed people, like whether it be colored, they say mulatto back in the day or whatever, right? A lot of the race policies in America are simply based off, like, inheritance, right? That's what the run drop rule was. If you wanted to mess around with your slaves and you didn't want those kids to inherit anything, right? Now they're black, and black people can't inherit anything, right? So a lot of the policies we adhering to today is due to these outdated and honestly dumb policies that was in place, right? And when you're talking racial politics in America, you're having a phenotype conversation. Whatever you look like, you can identify as, right? Whatever you're passing, the paper bag test, that's what you're doing in America. So, when you look at it through those eyes or whatever, to go back to the question, I think the ask is if a biracial person dating a black person, is that an interracial relationship? I guess it just depends on what the person wants to identify as, right? It's this you're playing race science in America, man. It's just so fucking pseudo to me. You can have the mindset, and then you have to keep in mind the mindset of a person, right? You could be the blackest person, you black as midnight, and still have a very white or European mindset. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so befuddled at this point that when you're trying to slice these little relationships and look at them. I think Buana hit it earlier though. It's a person's mindset matters more in this situation. You know what I'm saying? How they view themselves, their ideology. Those are the things I think is more important at this point than you trying to, decipher what some racial ambiguous person, what I'm saying, looks like, and trying to slice oranges. What is your mindset? What is your ideas on liberation? Things like that. So that's what I got.
So where to kind of follow up, someone's typing or something. To follow up on this thought experiment that's being presented to us by Trigger Happy 262. What of a phenotypically white person who can claim some connection to blackness through some ancestor, who can claim that they're culturally black, but they're phenotypically white? Should we consider that person black?
In America, we don't even control who's considered black, to be honest with you. Nobody's snatching the pen out of anybody's hand when they're filling out a census. Nobody is vetting anybody. Let me ask you this: what's the criteria to be considered black? What is the black test? Where are the roles at to be considered black? Where is the black tribe? Where do you sign up for? Like if you look at the Native American tribes, right? And for me to consider Navajo or Choctaw or something, there's a roles I got to go through. There's a test. There's a heritage I have to prove. Where is that with the black community? So, it's hard to even answer that question because who controls who says who's black, right? So like I said, if you have some ancestor back in the day who could say they're black, some black people actually consider them black due to the one drop rule. So when you don't have any vetting system, you don't have any control over it. It becomes imaginary. It's like fiat at this point. That's why I say you got to consider somebody's mind states, and some people would. It's a player in the NBA right now, Hartenstein. His father is a mixed race German guy, and his mom is white, and he looks like a ginger if you ever saw him, right? If you keep up with the Knicks. And then he went on a podcast with two other black people, two other black players, and they was like, oh, you're black, your daddy is half, and they dapping him up like a black dude. So it depends on who you ask, man.
Appreciate that, Webb. Yeah, I was when I was asking those questions, those follow-up questions, especially the last one, I was thinking about Hartenstein. I was thinking about that whole thing where he claims or they claim he's black, blah, blah, blah. Real quick in the chat, shout out to KW Don 7 who's here. He said the Hodge twins have been soft shoe cooling for years. They have stepped up during the rise of crotch grab. Okay, now I understand. Shout out to Real Black Gentleman as well, who's out there. He says, quote, is you trying to block bullshit for black folks or nah is the test for blackness? I appreciate that, RBG. Only has some internet issues, so let's go to him quickly before he may have to dip out. Oni, what say you to all of it?
Yeah, no. See, that's what I'm saying. Well, I don't know what what KW Don 7 was saying about these guys don't have a white parent. But they do have a white parent somewhere. But yeah, I'm not gonna call like I think that we as African people, we have to we have to get out of the national outlook, right? And we gotta like probably expand toward an international purview, right? And two, we have to we have to just be realistic and say, you know what? Somebody who's half or something that's half of something is both things. You know what I mean? Is chocolate milk chocolate or is it milk? You know what I mean? Or is it chocolate milk? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it something different or is it both things? Is it exclusive? Is it exclusively one of its parents? And that's the thing that we are saying when we look at people. And the trouble is this: when you don't differentiate, you're gonna realize that a lot of times you're taking flack for people that aren't your people. You know what I mean? So these guys can walk up and be like, "Man, black women ain't shit," right? That's fine. I mean, not fine, but that's what they say, whatever, right? But then you have people saying, "You see how black men talk about black women? What you mean?" You know what I'm saying? you know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing is this: white men saying, black women ain't shit. That's their opinion. You know what I mean? But the reality is this: that if you're half and half, you don't have to think that black women are shit or black women are the bee's knees. People saying, "Hey man, these guys are traitors." They're not traitors. And so I'm going to push back on that whole. It's got to be. You got to look at their consciousness. Because I'm not going to say that this guy had a black consciousness. I don't know what would mean by black consciousness, but nobody ever said John Brown was a black man. Now this is a man who he was actually calling black people pussies for not wanting to join his insurrection. You know what I mean? Not just any black people. He was calling notable black people pussies. He was like, "Oh, you against slavery, but you ain't finna put your life on the line. What kind of pussy shit is that?" But ain't nobody call him a black man. We know he was a white guy. Ain't nothing. And the thing is this: that even white people call him a white guy. White people don't say, "Okay, well now that your consciousness is such that because they might call you an N-word lover, they might call you a traitor. They're not going to call you a black person." So the example of Tommy Sotomayor, who is fairly melanated and all that, right? I'm not going to call him a white guy. I know he's a black guy. I know that black people are capable of having traitors. The trouble is when we start looking at people who could go, are genetically, one foot in both doors, and you saying, well, they're not white. Well, if they're not white, they're not black. And if they're black, they're white. These are two, as far as I'm concerned, these are two white guys talking. Or even like what's more inaccurate, these are two mixed guys talking. And you got to notice that when you don't take the stance, and this is why the prompt is even here. When you don't take the stance that biracial isn't black, you got them saying things like, "Well, my child is going to be black." The trouble is this: black plus black does equal black. Okay, white plus white does equal white. But if biracial is black, then absolutely their kid with anybody, like you said, it'd be a Korean, would be black. If black plus anything equals black. But the reality is black plus anything does not equal black. Black plus black equals black. Or, like I said, you could make the case black plus mixed equals black. You could make that case. You could say, well, predominantly, the genetics are predominantly, but you can't say that black plus anything equals black. because then you come into the slippery slope. And then, like I said, with the black plus anything, and sorry, so the more logical conclusion is that you gotta come to terms with actually look at it from a genetic standpoint, look at it from a DNA standpoint, look at it from look at it from that kind of standpoint. When you look at it from that standpoint, you're going to say, look, these people are not black. They can possibly have black children if they had black women, but they themselves are not black. No, and that's okay. That's okay.
Oni, so I don't mean to cut your wisdom, brother. I just take 2 seconds. You are killing your own argument. You mentioned a scientific argument. As a scientist, I would expect. I would hope that you would see that if you say, let's say these people don't have a black, a white parent, but a white grandparent, are they still black? Because most people in the Western, black people in the Western world, if they do a pooling of their DNA, up to 80% of them go back to West Africa, but the 20% goes back to Europe. So if we cut in the mustard and talking in terms of DNA and whether you have white ancestry or not, or whether that makes you black or not, then all of us in the Western world, the black people, due to rape, pillaging, and plunder, all of us have some gene of that of our ancestors going to Europe, even if it's just 1%. So the scientific argument fails. It fails because none of us are 100% African. None of us in the West are 100% African only. You understand what I'm saying, or am I babbling? I might be babbling.
No, I understand perfectly what you're saying. I understand exactly.
No, look, he's babbling though, because nobody. Because I even said that you can. I said that these biracial people could have black children with a black partner. So it really comes back to 50-50. If you are predominantly genetically black, then that's different. But we're talking about people who are not predominantly genetic black. We're talking about people who are equally black and white. And then you're saying, well, no, they're black because the white man said so. Because the white man gives us the trash. Because the white man doesn't take accountability. The white man doesn't take responsibility. Therefore, that's just us saying, well, it's because he because the white man, that's an appeal to authority. That's what it is. Right?
But here's the thing though. I think something we always miss with these conversations. Race is not biological. Race is social. There is no biological term for it. And this is something that we talked about many times in social sciences. What is race? Human beings, as far as what we consider race, is a social construct. Doesn't mean it's no less real. But again, what your race is could very well determine what you live in society. So, for example, right, somebody you would consider them biracial, right? If that same person was in Latin America, that's a mulatto. If they were in France, they'd be, South Africa, they'd be colored. So there's no, what you consider race, there's no biological foundation for race. That's a purely social thing. So this is why there's so much confusion. Who's black? Who's not black? How much black DNA they got? How much white DNA they got? These questions are so inexact because what the science of race is inexact. There is no gene. Oh, this is the black gene. This is the white gene. That doesn't exist. So that's why we have all this confusion about this matter.
Can I push back on that? There is such thing as something. Well, you're right. Race is a social construct, right? But when science designates, because due to society's norms, designate who's black, who's white, who's Asian, who's European, this goes back to haplogroups and genetic markers. So we all know that, like, if everyone got their DNA test done and see how much ancestry they have, those goes to specific haplogroups, which or in, let's put in historical terms, will be your so-called tribe, right? So we know certain tribes stay together, so they have cohesiveness. So through that cohesiveness, they stay together, and throughout time, they have similar genetics, right? So really, we're supposed to be looking this from a haplogroup as far as like what's your genetic marker. So like me, I'm 98% African, right? I have 1% European and 1% Amerindian, Arawak, or whatever, right? But everything else is African. So within that that 98%, it's Cameroon, it's Nigeria, Congo. It's split up. So when you go to Africa, those groups are even like, you just can't go into Africa and say, well, yeah, I'm black. People look at you, okay, what does that mean? You're not telling me who you are. Like Dr. Clark says, black tells you what you are, not who you are. So you go into Africa and say, I'm black. Well, that has no real bearing. No one knows who you are. So now you have to say, I am Fulani, I am Hausa, I am that. Oh, now we're talking about, now you belong to that particular group. And when you go to that particular group, and let's say for argument's sake, you're 56% Hausa or whatever, right? Then yes, you and that particular group have more of a genetic cohesion when it comes to that. So when it comes to DNA, it has nothing to do with like race or whatever. I just want to push back on that a little bit, even though it is a social construct, but we are divided up genetically. It just so happens we just do it by race.
Yeah.
Kofi, while you can.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Only you finish up, and then Kofi, who just was speaking, I didn't get to introduce him. Only you finish, and then Kofi, give your thoughts on the prompt overall as well. Go ahead, Oni.
Yeah, another pushback is just this idea that, like first off, when Black Steel was talking about, races and races and real, because they would be mulatto here and colored in this, mulatto and colored mean mixed, but here's the thing about that. It's like, you could even say tribes or families or what have you. But like, put an example where I have a daughter and somebody else has a son, and then we say, who the grandchild, who does the grandchild belong to? Me or the other person, right? And I mean, obviously, you might factor in, where the grandchild lives, maybe. But the reality is that the grandchild would be biologically both sides, right? The grandchild, so you wouldn't necessarily, like, the thing that we're being asked to do is dismiss the fact that, well, of course, KWAZ 7 is saying that they don't have a white ancestor, which is a little bit, shocking, honestly. But just taking it, like, let's just suppose that it did, right? We're being asked to ignore their white half and say, no, that half has no genetic bearing on their genetic makeup or the genetic makeup of their children, right? And that is the scientific absurdity. Whether their white parent, makes them play in the yard or not, you know what I mean, doesn't change that whatever genetic contributions these individuals make towards their children, right? That half DNA that they're going to express, that doesn't change whether or not that half DNA is coming from a white person who also gave them half DNA. And that's or even just looking at their genetic makeup, it doesn't change. And again, it might not apply to these people because KWAZ 7 is saying that they're 58%. But in the example of a white person and a black person, there is a whole individual, this white individual, whose DNA replicated with a black individual, and that person contributed 50% of their DNA. And then we're saying, well, you know what? The only percent that matters is the black DNA, as long as this black person, this is not black person, but as long as this person says, I'm a black person, or as long as this person, I don't know, puts on the dashiki and acts really, really, because that's how a lot of them do. But anyway, that's it.
Yeah, Kofi, you could give your thoughts on the prompt now.
Yeah, I think it was Real Black Gentleman. I think he misheard me. I know he said, we're all entitled to our opinions, but when it comes to science, certain things we just have to have grounded in particular facts. So I think I don't know if he misspoke or he misheard me. So he said something to the effect of, 58% African is pretty much a failing grade. He didn't hear me. Again, I'll repeat what I said. If you go into Africa and say, I am black, everybody sees that. No one knows who you're from, where you're from, what people you're from. Are you Igbo? Like, who are you from? Saying that doesn't mean anything. That is a very Western mindset, right? Especially on black people in the diaspora. In Africa, you go and say, yeah, I'm black like you. They're like, okay. No one goes into Europe and say, yeah, I'm white. That doesn't mean anything. Okay, so where are you from? Are you from France, Sweden, the Netherlands? What? It doesn't mean anything. Oh, you have to say, I'm German. Oh, okay, you belong there. Same thing when we go to Africa. Oh, where you're from, right? So saying 58% Afro, 58% African, no, the world does not do that. That's still a Western mindset. Anybody that goes anywhere, someone that goes to China, there's like, first of all, if you're speaking, what language do you speak? Cantonese or Mandarin? Oh, I speak Mandarin. Okay, what province are you for? No one goes to China. Yeah, I'm Chinese. Okay, well, amongst Chinese people, no one knows who you are, where you're from. They just know you're that. They don't know whether to like you or hate you still. So I just want to get that out the way when I said that. I think I understand what he was saying, but I think he probably misunderstood how what I was trying to explain. But anyway, as far as these two guys, right? When it comes to them, you already see it. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone that's in the service. I'm an American too, but every time I see a Black American has this vigorous zeal of patriotism, most of the times I write what side of the aisle they fall on. So they will put their American patriotism over their blackness. So you see the dude there. He has an American hat on with American flag, all this other stuff. I already know what it is. This goes all the way back since the freaking Tea Party. So anything coming out of these guys' mouth is a conservative talking point. It's basically just black dudes with a white man's mentality. So when you see people like this, I'm not taking them seriously. Anyone that knows anything about America, how America's set up, how the political system is set up, and who are the people that are talking for you, talking against you, we already know that, okay, these people are not taking these people serious. Black people are not looking, the average black person with self-respect are not looking in these two for information or for confidence or to how to navigate in America. It's not happening. And someone spoke to as far as like the vetting process is, right? Like Dave Chappelle did as far as like a racial draft. Black people need an actual racial draft. But we know people like him, like these twins, Simon Sotomayor, Jesse Lee Peterson, Candace Owens, all these people are not, or we don't consider them actually black people in the frame of they don't speak for us. This is not the average black person. We're not looking for us. So these are black people that make white people feel good about their racist positions and their racist ideologies. That's what they're for. And when someone also mentioned a comment like there's money in making into this. So these are just puppets, right? These are just puppets. These are the people that that white people pay to say like, hey, look, I'm not saying that. Look, a black guy said it, so you can't call me racist. They're just pawns. They're just political, social pawns that are being used. And when it comes to biracial people, as far as they're, are they white, are they black? I mean, I addressed that on my channel as far as like doing this plantation math or whatever, because if a person here in America says, well, all the white man says that I'm black, even though my mother is white. Yeah, if you were to go to anywhere else, everyone's just going to consider you mixed, right? So if we play that one black drop rule nonsense, so you have like someone that's, let's say, half black and half Japanese, and they go to Japan, they're not going to call them Japanese, right? And same thing, they're always going to call them mixed, right? And the thing that I think we don't understand as people, we see that as like a mark, like the curse of Ham, like, oh, no matter what, we're black. No, the reason why that is done, because every group have self-respect. They want to retain their culture, their heritage, right? If someone else ends up mixing, right, and they come back to that culture, they want to, okay, we have a bit of a conflict of interest here, because this person is half black and, let's say, half Indian or whatever, right? And this person thinks they're Indian coming into India. They're going to call them mixed. Why? Because they want to protect their group. You're always going to be mixed. And in those societies, you will have to, if you're saying that, hey, look, I'm half black and I'm half whatever, you're going to have to prove even harder that even though I'm black, you have to show and prove to them that well, in my example, they're Japanese. No, I'm a Japanese 100%. Forget about my blackness. Black people, no problem. We just welcome you to the barbecue. It's fine. It's no problem. Right. And that's our problem. Right. So I really even get, when I look at guys like this, I would even take them too serious, because I know where they're coming from. And again, our vetting process has to be, as far as like, listen, even with regular everyday black people, we have to see where their mentality is as far as like what they're saying, what they're doing, where their mind's at, because they're ready to genetically black. But again, like someone on the panel said, they could be a Tommy Sotomayor. Yeah, he's a black man, but he's a black man that's suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. And we need to have, in black society, here's a box. There are black people that suffer some post-traumatic slave syndrome, that don't speak for us, that hold us back, that have the white man's hand up their ass saying all the things that a racist would say. And once we get all those people in that box, and everyone knows who those people are in that box, we could navigate. At least we have a vetting process, so to say. And I'll pretty much end it there.
Before we move on to Should Be Topic number 2, is there any last thoughts from anyone here on the panel? All right. Should Be Topic number 2 says, wait a minute. Why is India refining African oil? And the obvious one, are there no others to do the job in Namibia? This came with a link to Twitter from Africa Archives. It says Namibia just discovered 10 billion barrels of oil, making it the third largest in Africa and number 15 in the world in terms of oil production. Your comments on this. So this takes us to this video, 4-minute video. We'll watch it.
Now we turn to Namibia. It's a country in southern Africa, home to about 3 million people and apparently billions of barrels of oil. A new discovery has been made there by the Portuguese energy company Galp Energia. They say they found huge oil deposits off the coast of Namibia. How huge? About 10 billion barrels. This is the latest oil discovery in offshore Namibia this year. A few months ago, other energy giants struck oil as well. Britain's Shell and France's Total Energies. Everything put together, Namibia is now estimated to hold at least 21 billion barrels of oil, which might give it the third largest oil reserves in Africa after Libya and Nigeria, and 15th largest in the world. And this may just be the beginning. These latest discoveries have all come from here, the Orange Basin, It's located near Namibia's southern coast, near South Africa. The entire region is being explored by energy giants from around the world. These firms have carved up the area and they are frantically searching for oil. So far, Shell, Total, and now Galp have struck oil, but America's Chevron is also in the hunt. So are Australia's Woodside and South Africa's Rhino Resources. So we may keep hearing about new discoveries, and Namibia may become the next big thing in oil. Because the Orange Basin is just one area being explored, there are a number of other potential hotspots, both offshore and inland. So in some time, Namibian oil may be fueling all our vehicles. But it'll take years for that to happen, probably decades, because what you're seeing right now is the initial phase, the exploration. That's almost the easy part. After that, the oil needs to be drilled, sold, and transported. It will take years to set up that infrastructure. The initial batch of Namibian oil won't flow till at least 2029, so at least another 5 years. And that is what analysts are predicting. And even then, it will start off as a trickle. By 2035, it is expected to produce 380,000 barrels a day, 380,000 barrels per day, which doesn't really compare to major oil-producing nations. Look at the numbers from December 2023. The US produced 13.3 million barrels of oil. Russia, 10.1 million. Saudi Arabia, about 9 million. So even if Namibia exceeds all expectations, oil output may just cross 1 million barrels per day initially, which makes it a promising new entrant, but not a major oil exporter. That also means expectations should be tempered. The discoveries in Namibia won't bring down your petrol prices, not for the next few decades at least. And they also won't turn the country rich overnight. It won't suddenly become the next Dubai or Saudi. That takes years of expansion, and Namibia will also have to avoid corruption. The country's oil fields are being explored by foreign companies, Shell, Total, Galp, and all the others. Galp controls 80% of the new fields it discovered. Namibia State Oil Company owns 10%, and another Namibian company has the remaining 10%, meaning 8 out of every $10 will go to Galp. Namibia's state oil firm has signed similar deals with all the foreign oil companies. So if it is not careful, it may not see the profits from the resources anytime soon. The first cut may go to the West instead, and Namibia could be forced to make do with scraps. But if that is avoided, it's a great opportunity for the nation and for India as well. India is home to the largest oil refinery in the world. African oil from Nigeria and Angola already comes to India for refining. Namibia could become another partner, bringing jobs and development to both nations. But again, this is getting ahead of ourselves. First, let us hope that Namibia truly benefits from its newfound resources.
Boy, talk about laying it down thick. And being about your own self-interest as they should. Let's start with Kofi. Kofi, wait a minute. Why is India refining African oil? And the obvious one, are there no others to do the job in Namibia?
All right. Damn. I have such like this is wow. So much. Despite what they should do, right? Because then this is going to bring more. I mean, even the Indians know that. Why Africa doesn't need to get scraps. My whole thing is why they're just going off the coast of Africa and just doing and drilling like. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just don't know how to say. I'm just upset. If they are they have to give the oil. They don't have an oil refinery. What Namibia should do is say, okay, fine. For our first couple million barrels of oil, we'll refine it there, right? This should be within the deal. But you would have to also build a refinery here in Namibia so we could refine our own goddamn oil. So we don't have to ship it. And I'll beat them in the head like, hey, look, it will save us on import costs from, drilling it here, then sending a whole bunch of barrels here, then other millions. You know, we'll just cut on costs, and we'll just do all that stuff. That's what needs to be done. If they do that and that in the deal, then I wouldn't be so, so like upset. You know what I'm saying? But only getting 7%, that's no. They should be getting, like, I'll say close to like 40% of the profit of the oils that they're drilling right there. Number one, they're doing the same thing in my country in Guyana. They're finding oil, and they have these shipping companies. Oh, and they have some shipping companies from India coming. I'm like, oh my God, why India? And then and it's my country, but people that has a foresight, like saying, okay, you saying we're all Guyanese and stuff like that. Why are you giving out of all the people in the world? Why is India getting that contract? Why can't Nigeria get that contract? Why is India getting that contract? So Namibia is close to South Africa, so they already have Indians there in South Africa, right? There's already Indians there in South Africa during the time of apartheid. So I just see them pulling the strings in the background, and I mean, I got more to say, but I'll just hang back because I gotta go right now. But I'll hang back and see what everyone else has to say.
I appreciate that, Kofi. Let's mix it up a bit. Let's go to Oni. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that, you know, I feel like this is one of those American questions, you know, in the sense of, a lot of times we like to look at Africa and be like, why they don't do X, Y, Z? Why don't do it? At some point, we have to come to terms with, just reality, really. But one thing I want to say is that it doesn't seem like India was refining the oil from Namibia. It looks like the lady was saying she's hopeful that that when Namibia starts, exploring this oil, that it will send it for refining in India. The other thing that she pointed out was that Galp, which was a Portuguese oil company, had 80% of the oil, which was like, that's probably the biggest story in that video. And that's a bad thing, obviously, but it also comes back to, we have to come to terms with, if you don't have the capitalists, if you don't have the bourgeoisie, if you don't have the wealth, the level of development, the industry, if you don't have the technology, you're not going to be doing the big shit. Like, you're not going to be doing it. Are there oil refineries in Namibia? Are they oil refineries that can handle 1 million gallons of oil a day? Right? If there aren't, then that's why they don't do it. And you might say, well, Namibia should get on top of that. Yeah, absolutely. But then you have to come to terms with, it's possible that Namibia's leadership at this point in time is not on that time, because it's very, very complicated to be on the right time. We underestimate how difficult it is to be on the right time. Like, I'm over here in Tanzania, I don't know how you say it, but I'm here in the country, and there was this water, like this hydroelectric plant that Tanzania was like maintaining, and they were saying to themselves, look, we produce too much damn electricity. Okay, we produce so much electricity, we don't even have the battery for basically we're overproducing electricity in terms of our capacity for storing it, right? So they decided to close down the hydroelectric plant, and of course, power outages came back. So the real world is that things can't happen overnight, right? The real world is that if your leadership, you're making tough choices, and those choices might be towards something that some people are going to say, well, that's not what I want it to be, right? This is why, at the end of the day, if you or if we don't personally get involved in the politics of these countries, or if we don't personally get involved in telling our people what time it is, right? Then you're basically gambling with other people knowing what time it is, and the reality is that that's probably not going to work out for you. And that's all it really is. So I know Azuli was saying 600 years, you don't know. The reality is you don't have oil refining for 600 years. And we have to come to terms with, when was oil a big deal? At what point in time was oil a big deal? When did they discover these oil fields? Allegedly, they discovered it this year. So, the assumption is, well, they should have had oil refineries for, 600 years now. And they should have just had oil refineries sitting around so that they could refine the oil they discovered this year. It doesn't make any sense. If there's no, you got to remember, for 600 years, there was no oil economy for them in Namibia. There was no significant number of people in the oil economy. They're not America. America had this oil economy for, I don't know, I want to say 30 years, right? The assumption is that somehow you're in the middle of Namibia and America's building a bunch of oil refineries, 30 years ago or some shit, right? Or I don't want to say 30 years, maybe 60 years ago, right? America's building a bunch of oil refineries 60 years ago, and Namibia is also building a bunch of oil refineries with no oils, no cars, it doesn't make any sense. And that's the thing that we're not coming to terms with. Like, we're looking at it from, well, in America, this is what we do. Yeah, okay. But it's a completely different, it's not a completely different planet, but it may as well be, especially if we're considering, the level of ignorance that people, particularly in heavily propagandized states, the level of ignorance they approach the world with. You're not going to develop, or you're not going to have the same exact technology at your fingertip because you're on a different, just because somebody on another side of the planet had developed it. It's just not how the world works, and we have to come to terms with that. That's it.
You mentioned his name because he commented in the chat. Let's welcome in Azuli this week.
Yo, what up, bro? What up? Okay, first of all, I didn't know if I had to spell this shit out. When I say 600 years and you don't know what time it is, it's not specifically related to having a place to refine the oil. It's the mentality. It's the mentality that freaking 600 years as a black man, as black people, you're still getting taken advantage of. That's what I'm talking about. If there's no oil refinery in Namibia, then nobody's fucking digging oil. If you can't build me a refinery in my country, nobody's fucking digging in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 600 years ago, we didn't know we had oil. Where's the mental capacity to stand for your people? You think the Chinese people will let you come through their shit and build something and not teach them how to do it themselves? I don't understand what we're talking about. 600 years for black men. Supposedly, we're the first civilization. We're the first this and this shit. You can't put it in your freaking brain that, you know what? Since we don't know how to build oil, I'm not pronouncing it right, refinery, whatever, then you're going to build one for us. And if you don't want to build one, then nobody's getting paid. Or you don't want to teach us? Nobody's getting paid. And again, the brother said before, in Grenada, we're all Grenadian. No, they're not all Grenadian. They came here, those Indians came as indentured servant to overtake you, to take you out of power. They're not your friends, but no, we're Grenadians, we're Trinidadian. No, the Indians that came as indentured servant ruled Trinidad and they ruled Grenada and Guyana. Black people. You think they're gonna? Why? You're right. Why didn't they reach out to Nigeria to build something for them. Because they are about tribe. I'm going to reach out to them and let them make money off of us. Since we control the mode of production and Grenada or Guyana, whatever he said. I'm not talking about, bro, where's your mentality to say, you know what? I have oil in Namibia. We both could benefit. You know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to let you do 60% or 65% of the profit for 10 years. But you have to build something for us. But you know what? They're not going to do that for you because because they know once you got your own oil thing, you're not going to need them no more. What are we talking about? You think these people are gonna build you some shit, and 20 years from now you're not gonna need them? So have we not seen the map that says that most of the Western society and European countries and other countries benefit from Africa? You haven't seen the map? Natural resources from here, cobalts from here, this from here, this from there. In 600 years or whatever years, they be having their foot up our ass. It's not that they don't have the mentality to do, it's the corruption. These governments in Africa and the Caribbean are corrupt. They only see their own family, get the money to send their kids to be educated in Europe or China or whatever. Meanwhile, the population of black people, black students, black mothers, black children, black fathers are dying. But you want to say, I'm talking about oil refinery. No, I'm talking about the mentality, bro. Aren't we tired of talking, protesting, making music? It's still the same shit. The majority of us as black people, diaspora or whatever, are suffering. Yes, they got a couple of people who are individuals who made it. Billionaires in Nigeria, billionaires here. But the majority of people, black people in the world, are not doing this well. But we're here talking about oil refinery. That's all I have to say, bro. I'm going to step off. I'm going to come back later.
Appreciate that. Let's hear from D-Web. D-Web, what's it?
Well, I ain't gonna go too hard, man. I think pretty much people have hit on the major points I was winning. The one thing I will add to that is that just because you have oil in your country doesn't mean that that's an automatic windfall. Venezuela has more oil reserves than anybody in the world, and they're broke as shit, right? So you have to keep in mind that even if you can and you have the means to refine the oil, you still have to deal with the petrodollar. You still have to deal with OPEC. You still have to deal with the Russians, right? They have a whole market set up for oil. And it's not like the world is there's no oil shortage in the fucking, any oil shortage, they produce themselves. They slow down production or they speed up production. But there's no oil shortage in the fucking world right now, right? So they literally control the market. So it's more than just you got oil, I'm selling it to the highest bidder. If they have a system designed where nobody will buy your shit, like Venezuela, and you just sitting on millions of gallons of oil just sitting there, right? Rotting away. So that's the one thing. At the end of the day, it's still power dynamics involved in all of that. You know what I'm saying? I think one of the worst things that can happen is you actually find oil reserves in your country because now you got the thieves, you got the wolves at the fucking door, right? But that's neither here nor there. But that's all I got, bro.
I appreciate that, Webb. Let's welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you?
Shit, everything.
Nice.
Peace to everybody on the panel and in the chat.
Yes, sir.
Man, Azuli said some stuff I agree with. I don't know what the world coming to. I couldn't, but for real, you know, when he say everybody's over in, I can't even say the country, Namibia, digging for. That's what I was talking about earlier when I say we are not territorial. We're not territorial. We're not possessive. We're not protective. Nigeria have oil refineries. I don't know for whatever reason. Azuli say tribal, could be tribal, but I do think of if anybody gonna come and get some oil, you should be. If you don't build this for us, you can't get none of our oil. They should be talking to. They should be talking to Nigeria. Nigeria, the oil refineries they have is producing 650 barrels of oil per day, and they're also doing diesel and aviation fuel at the one in Nigeria. But if they're doing a million barrels, I think it's time for us to say we want to start working together, or maybe I don't know, maybe they don't see themselves as the same. I don't know. Uh, and what Azuli said about 600 years, if we don't understand, that is a problem. That's why I do talk about Angola and what Angola did in Portugal. But at the same time, those people that went and started controlling Portugal, they didn't do anything for Angola. They only looked out for the Angolans that's coming to Portugal. They left they left in Angola and the Chinese coming to do in Angola, but with the Angolans that controlling Portugal, we had Portuguese complaining, talking about they consider this recolonization, what Angola was doing, buying up everything, buying the skyscrapers, owning everything, the richest people there. They were complaining, but they didn't do anything for the country of Angola. So for me, the biggest thing is going to be, man, our standard. We're going to have to understand being territorial. We're going to have to understand being possessive. And we're going to have to understand, because once you're territorial and possessive, so now you're going to have to now you're going to have to be protective. But after all these years, and I've said it a lot, after all these years here in the United States, in the diaspora, on the continent, there's things that we have failed to do, and we wait for other people to do it for us, unless we're dealing with us, for protecting, you know. But we want the police to protect us from the police. We want other people to do things for us, unless it's one of us doing it to us. Then we have all the energy and have all the smoke in the world. One of these days, we just gonna have to figure it out. If it's ours, if it's Namibia's, everybody ain't Namibian. If you're not there, if you're not a Black African, you shouldn't be there. You should be trying to reach out and work with people, work with your own people before you start letting other people use you, man. Because it's like we're almost like laughing stock of humanity, man, the laughing stock of the human species, because of the way we carry on, because of the way we act like we can't do certain things. I understand if you don't have that technology, and if you didn't know how to do the technology, it's okay to learn from other people. So if other people gonna have to do it for you, other people need to be coming, showing, not building it for you where they have any interest in it. They coming and you having your people learning from them, learning to build, and you build your refineries, and you can start building your own refineries. Instead of letting other people do it for you. We can't let everybody do everything. That's why we stay in the position that we're in, because we're looking for everybody to do everything for us. And on that note, man, that's all I wanted to say about this. I'm like Azuli. I got to step off, but I'm gonna be listening offline, and I'm gonna try and come back in a minute. Thanks for letting me speak.
No, I appreciate you, Bakari. You guys make sure to subscribe to Bakari's channel and listen to the episode he did earlier today. I gotta finish the last half hour or so, but you guys tune into that episode. With that said, let me go to Real Black Gentleman. You've been here a while. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
Hey, what's up? I guess I'll answer the question of why is India refining Africa's oil. Yeah, it goes back to, honestly, like, I hate to say it in a way, if we can't do it, you kind of have to pick your devil in the short term. It's like, I guess, what I'm saying, would you rather it go to, France, or, or Germany, or South Africa? I mean, I think that's a kind of a smooth move in a way to, like, let it be outside of the white folks, purview, in a sense, and at least let a third party ish. Because I mean, it is what it is. India has been dabbling in Africa before China was. So, like, it's just one of those things. It's like, look, I'm gonna let these white folks at it, Shell and Total, or I'm gonna let, Buddha oil, I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. I should hope that, that, in this modern world that, you got some people who are, sending you know what I'm saying, emissaries, as it were, to say, yo, like we can get something going, like, you know, in a couple days we can get you this out the ground. I mean, as you can see, they have one inland, you know what I'm saying? Maybe Namibia clearly don't got the, you know what I'm saying, the boats, you know, to float around and drill like that. Okay, we got something inland. Okay, maybe we can, you know, say won't get your little fire going, get your little refinery, you know, get your little diesel going. You know what I'm saying? It's not impossible, right? And once you have look at that, it's right in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Make sure black folks secure that shit in the middle. That's what's most important. I hate to say, you know, make sure that them white folks don't have a reason to just be all in Africa for another reason. Again, just pick your spots, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, like, no one should be digging that oil without Namibian people's permission. Like, they're like vulturing on it, trying to give black people answers to problems that they don't have. You know what I'm saying? That's how the white people do. It's like they minding, you know, other folks' business type stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just sniffing around and kind of like floating around on some international waters type. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, territorial waters of a country extend further than, you know, 3 miles. They go out, you know what I'm saying, you know, 100 odd miles or so. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got distance outside your coast, and all that shit underneath that water is yours. All that continental shelf, all that's yours. So, you know, I should hope, you know what I'm saying, that, you know what I'm saying, people ain't compromised, that they, you know what I'm saying, are actually thinking about math and, like, you know, financing over, you know what I'm saying, 50-year plans about, you know what I'm saying, make sure we get some roads out of this, so that, you know what I'm saying, we can get some cars, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, get some infrastructure going. Because oil, when you refine oil, it's not just gasoline. It's you know what I'm saying, asphalt. It's, you know what I'm saying, a lot of materials. I mean, plastics. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, hopefully black people can use some material science on it instead of just copying what white folks do. And, like, you know what I'm saying, like, we don't have to make the same type of plastic. We don't have to make the same type of engines. I personally think that, like, if you make a better engine that is more efficient, you know what I'm saying, than these pistons, and it's just the idea of the engine. If black people make a better engine that can burn fuel better and just, like, you know what I'm saying, get it on the road, just that's the ticket. You know what I'm saying? You know, materials plus ingenuity is the secret. It's not just the oil, it's what you can do with this material. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Let me go to Bueno next. Bueno, what say you?
Oh, okay. So I'll start here. So Namibia is a country that is at the bottom of Africa. Okay. So one would ask the question, well, why don't the Namibians transport their oil, unrefined oil, to Nigeria and have it refined there? And I'm thinking that geographically, Namibia may be closer to India than it is to Nigeria. Now, somebody could do the math on it in terms of miles and transportation, but I think that it is closer geographically to taking the Pan-African politics out of it, just solely looking at the issue from a capitalist perspective, you know, and the money, the dollars that I'm gonna maintain or keep in my pocket, because I'm sure there was many contractors, many people offering to say, well, we'll refine the oil for this price, this cost. And I'm sure there are many other people was trying to throw their hat in and saying, well, we'll refine it for this cost. Maybe India say, well, we'll do it, and we'll do it at a rate that is cheapest. And the Namibian government decided, well, these guys, they said that they would do it. They would say they would do it at a cost that's cheaper than most of these other governments. So I'm gonna go along with it. I don't look at African governments to be Pan-African or even Garveyite or Garveyite oriented. You know, these guys are just running a state. So they're gonna do certain things financially that's best in the best interest of these countries. When Kofi says that the Guyanese president decided to allow Indian contractors, I'm saying, of course, the Guyanese, his ancestry is Indian. Of course, he can offer it. He can offer it to his ancestors. That's just standard. That's just standard. But the reality is, $21 billion is not really a lot of money in terms of oil. It's really a drop in the bucket. And you have to get in the business that you're going to be in the business in terms of long term. And I don't necessarily think that Namibia should build an oil refinery. I don't think that they should build an oil refinery because they are going up against their competitors who have trillions and trillions of barrels of oil, underneath their ground. I think the Guyana should be in the oil business because the perspective of what they have underneath their feet is in the billions and billions of dollars, way more than Namibia, way more than Namibia. So they need to have an oil refinery. But make no mistake about it, Africa needs to industrialize. And I think that not only Africa, but the Caribbean as well. We've been running away from this for a long, long period of time. But you need to have the money and the finances to industrialize. So the question becomes, where do you get the money to industrialize your countries? There are, in terms of the people who have the ability to do it within the African continent, that's few and far between. You can go to Dangote. You can go to all them Nigerian generals who have billions of dollars to be able to invest, to industrialize their countries. But after that, who do you go to? Who do you go to? I agree with Azuli. Sometimes when Azuli talks, he sounds like Desalegn. Sometimes when he talks, he sounds like Jesse Lee. Who knows? But I agree with him. If we can't do it, it does not get done. Now that's a hardcore decision to make because you know that in making that decision, well, you're causing the people to suffer when they don't necessarily have to. But that's the position many developed countries took in the past, like China. Mao them took them hard stances, and it caused a whole lot of suffering. But the reality is, what was the ultimate result of that hard line stance? I don't know if I have the tenacity to take that kind of stance, but I understand when he says what he says. But I believe that Africa needs to industrialize. But I think that they need to really understand the business that they are industrializing and going into to be able to master it. For Namibia, $21 billion in terms of getting barrels of oil in that country, that's not a lot of money. That's not a lot of money for them to develop a whole refinery because of that $21 billion of oil. I think that they need to, if I was thinking of it purely as from a capitalist standpoint, I would look for the lowest bidder, 10%, for me to get 10% of profit in terms of the oil, the natural resources you about to extract out of my company. I'm going somewhere else, but I'm trying to find better than 10%. That's really a drop in the bucket. That's not going to reach the people. I don't know who the leadership in Namibia is, but that's not going to reach the people. That is a bad deal. And I'm trying to find a deal because I don't have the finances to build the refineries to get the natural mineral resources out of the ground. I'm trying to get the best deal possible. 10% is that's like a fuck you. I'm trying to get at least as close as to 50 as possible. I may not be able to provide the tools, but I certainly have the natural resources. So it all boils down to who is actually making these kinds of deals. It's just a bad deal. It's a bad deal. I would rather that oil stay in the ground until I get a better percentage out of that deal, because when that $21 billion is gone, when you done suck up all of my oil out of the ground or wherever that I possess the territory for you to extract it out of, I will get no more money from that situation. So you have to give me a better percentage than 10%. I think that the African leaders need to stand on their square and say, listen, if you want this money, I need 50%. I need 20%. I need 25%. I need 30%. I need to see some real money, because I need to see substantial. If you take in $21 billion out of my country, I need to get half of that. Give me at least 10 billion. So my people have the ability to see it. I just think it's bad deal making. But I don't know. I'll stop there just to be brief. I just think this is a bad deal. But Africa does need to industrialize. I think that we can industrialize in different fields of industry. But for Namibia, I don't think that oil is it, because 21 billion is not a lot comparative to the rest of the world. But I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that. One last but not least, Black Steel, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you?
So this has always been a problem, right? Africa has abundant resources, right? And everybody wants those resources. But because no one wants to pay a fair market rate about for those resources, everyone's trying to scam and do whatever possible, cut corners to avoid giving Africans their due. And much of the world is united in doing so. So, for example, there's oil refineries that are in Nigeria, true. But who are those oil refineries owned by? Are those oil refineries owned by Shell? Are they owned by British Petroleum? Who's owned? Are they owned by the Nigerian government? I don't think Nigeria has ever taken the step to nationalize their resources, their industries, so that way those profits would benefit the people of that country. What we see happening is that most of these resources are sent overseas, and then the money that it produced are funneled into a very small percentage of the population. So that's where you have these oligarchs or these kleptocrats who have so much money while the rest of the people are sitting there starving. So I think that's what you're going to see unless some drastic changes are made. You're going to see that Nigeria, another very wealthy oil producing country in Africa. We don't talk about it a lot. Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea has vast oil reserves, but most of that money goes to the president and his family, while most of the people are left standing. So, and then those oil refineries that are owned by these companies, they're not going to refine the oil if they know that a lot of those profits are going to be sent to help improve the country. That's where the corruption comes in. That's why these corrupt leaders are kept in power because it benefits these multinational corporations that take the oil from these countries. If if the oil revenue was spread equally and divided amongst the people, Shell, BP would pull out of Nigeria so fast. Not only would they, no, take that back. They wouldn't do that. They kill whoever's in charge of trying to refine the oil, whoever making these things, or they say, oh, these people are communists, these people are socialists, these people they're working for Iran or whatever enemy of the U.S., and then they're gonna use that as justification to bring in the military. That's what they would do. Exactly what they did in Iraq. So, but anyways, the reason why they don't have oil refineries is because there's no incentive for these multinational corporations to build one. That's why I think Namibia went to India to because I mean again you're dealing with the lesser of two evils. That's why you see a lot of the African countries going to China to build stuff because they don't have right now. They're suffering from losing their intellectual class or their brain drain going to different countries, and they're trying to industrialize. The West is going to take advantage of them. It seems like maybe China, India might be the better side to get that done. But I do think that they're going to have to transition from just being a producer of raw materials to actually refining those raw materials on the continent. That's what happens in the Congo, and that's why there's so much disruption in the Congo, so much violence in the Congo, is because a government in the Congo that is organized, looking out for the people's best interest, is not going to allow um, Microsoft and Apple and Tesla to rob them blind. These Canadian mining, they're not going to allow it. So, yeah, Nigeria is completely corrupt as far as their oil refinery. Going there, you're going to lose 90% of your money, or you might have a few, rich billionaires in Namibia. But I think that overall, the continent is going to have to learn how to refine their resources themselves sustainably. Of course, sustainably. You don't want to have the mass pollution in the Niger Delta in Namibia. Namibia is mostly desert, but you don't want to have those oil spills and the natural gas leaks and all of those other corruption things because they don't really care. The type of precautions they take here in the West, they're not going to take that in Africa and in Latin America because they don't really care. They fuck up the environment. Who cares? It's just a bunch of niggas steal their shit and just move on with it. So I think if it's going to be done, it needs to be done correctly, with a mind of sustainability. I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt?
Yeah, I just wanted to, chip in real quick. The thing is that, it really comes back to the leadership. When I was younger, I heard Leonard Jeffries speak, and he said one of the troubles that we have as African people, around the globe, is that we could win fights, but we don't win at the negotiation table. The thing that the Asians do that, Africans don't do as well is the Asians negotiate pretty damn good. So that deal that Erzuli was describing about, oh, well, you got to go build us a refinery or some shit like that, right? That is something that an Asian person would negotiate. But the people put into power in a lot of African countries, a lot of times are not on the people's side. You know what I mean? A lot of times they are the person with the biggest stick, and all they want is, a little bit of money for them. So if I'm Galp or I'm Shell, and I go to Namibia, I'm gonna say, hey, look, I'll give you guys, $20 billion. I'll give you guys $20 billion to take out, to extract your oil or whatever, right? Let's not even go that high, but let's say, I'll give you $5 billion to extract your oil. The person in charge might say, absolutely. When they say absolutely, that's it. There's no, refinery being built. There's no blah, blah, blah. But that person's getting their $5 billion. And they're okay with that. Why? Because that $5 billion can, supply, can get them to buy weapons, can get them to remain in power. Right? Whereas in Asia, a lot of Asian countries, you might be like, hey, look, I'll give you $5, you might go up and say, I'll give you $5 billion. They say, no. Give me $3 billion. And also you have to have this many Chinese workers or this many Chinese, it's a different it's a different negotiation. And the trouble is that, what we're looking at when we look at these sort of circumstances is that we're not realizing that if you do not participate in the political process, right? A lot of times the fools are going to participate in the political process, and you're going to have to peep game that a lot of Black people will sell out. They're will sell out. And we know this from our experiences in the West, where we're surrounded by sellouts. Okay? A lot of people in Africa are going to be sellouts too. And we might say, well, why can't they do this? Why can't they learn? Why can't they do it? Nobody, it's really a matter. I mean, the reason why, I'll put it this way. We don't have any sort of strong political parties. We don't have any sort of strong political philosophies. When you go to China, the big thing you're going to notice with China is that they have the CCP, and the people are really seriously studying. We got Black Steel on the panel where he studies, his Marxism or whatever. But nobody's really testing Black Steel on his Marxism, right? In China, they are studying their Marxism, if you will, and they are being tested rigorously. Okay, the guy Xi Jinping is a scholar in Chinese philosophy, and in Marxist philosophy. He's a scholar par excellence. Can we say that about just a random African leader? No. And I'm not saying you got to be a Marxist or not. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that these people, like you're talking about people who are really studied and really determined and really vetted, versus people who are just happen to be the local gang leader. You go to, if you go to the hood here, in America, the local gang leader, he's not going to be able to negotiate on the level of an intellectual. But contrast that to these Asian countries. I'm not saying the Asians are intelligent or not. What I'm saying is that a lot of times the leaders that you see are actually intellectuals in some capacity. And just to outline that, just to highlight why I'm saying that, is to say that in order to advance in the CCP, in order to advance in the Chinese Communist Party, you have to be tested and you have to be recommended. You have to be vetted. That is very different from, let's go to the Congolese situation where the guy who kills Lumumba is sitting around in power and he's not vetted by anybody. He's not qualified by anybody. He's not an intellectual by any stretch of the imagination, but he can make deals on the behalf of Congo. And so, the idea that he's going to make those good deals that are comparable to, like let's say an intellectual's deals, it's not realistic. It's a shame, and we can't go on the, oh well, you had 600 years to learn. Yeah, I understand what that. Like I agree. I would absolutely love if we had some sort of intellectual leadership. But the reality is that we have not set up any sort of way to do that. Whereas, again, you compare it to China. China's been doing it since 1200 AD. That's the big difference. That's it.
Yeah, I hear what I want to answer that for a second, briefly. What Oni just said is what most Western leaders think about the African mind. And I like that, though. I like that because it is the greatest Achilles heel of the Western world. It's the greatest Achilles heel because they think that because, on this front, because I may not have went to university, that I don't have intellectual capacity, intellectual prowess, or genius in the way that I think. They don't think that. And that is their Achilles heel because they underestimate their opponent. They underestimate the black man and thinking that way. Not understanding, well, the black man and build millions of civilizations around, millions of civilizations before the so-called time began. He have a thinking. He understand the world through observation. He have his own genius. They don't never consider these things. So the estimation is that when they found us in Africa, they found us with a bone in our nose. With a bone in our nose. And thank God that we had the ability to come here to save you, because without us saving you and civilizing you, you would be an empty vessel. This is the greatest underestimation of the black mind. Needless to say, outside of that, there are black scholars who was leaders. Mugabe was one of the most educated black minds in Africa in terms of leadership. I think Mugabe had a few PhDs. There are African leaders who do have PhDs. Let them continue to underestimate the African mind. We love it because it is their underestimation that is their biggest Achilles heel. It's their biggest Achilles heel, and I don't mind it. Let them think we stupid. No problem. No problem. No problem. They thought the Chinese were stupid too. They thought the Vietnamese were stupid. So let them continue to underestimate the black mind. But I'll leave it, Koku. I'm sorry for interrupting, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's no last thoughts there. We can go on to subject number 3 tonight. Should be subject number 3 tonight says, why can't the government of Tanzania let the people live in peace? This came with a link. Let me make sure I'm sharing it with you guys. Hold on one second. Yeah. This is an article that says Tanzania tourism, World Bank suspends funding for Ruaha. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. National Park project. It says the World Bank has halted its funding of 150 million, which is about 120 million pounds, tourism project in Tanzania, following allegations of rape, evictions, and killings. The Ruaha National Park was reportedly meant to double in size as part of the project, but critics says the expansion has led to widespread abuses. The bank began investigating last year after it was accused of complicity in the abuses. On Tuesday, it said it was, quote unquote, deeply concerned about the allegations. Quote, we have therefore decided to suspend further disbursement of funds with immediate effect, a spokesperson from the bank, which provides loans to developing countries, said. The Resilient Natural Resource Management for Tourism and Growth, or REGROW, project was launched in 2017 in an effort to improve the management of natural resources and tourism assets in South Tanzania, including in a number of national parks, the bank said. At least $100 million has already been dispersed for the project, according to the US-based think tank Oakland Institute. Work to expand the boundaries of the national park, a 1,300 square kilometer or 500 square mile conservation area that is home to lions and other wild animals, has been under heavy scrutiny. For over a year, Oakland Institute has reported alleged abuses linked to the development, which, while being funded by the bank, has been carried out by the Tanzanian authorities. The Tanzanian government had not responded to BBC requests for comment. Last September, Oakland Institute said its research team had interviewed several villagers who alleged they were raped by rangers funded by REGROW. In its publication, Oakland Institute also pointed to reports that a Tanzanian MP, or Minister of Parliament, and a community organization that rangers had allegedly killed villagers. The think tank said government agencies had seized cattle en masse in a bid to force villagers off their land, and that the Tanzanian government blatantly violated the bank's procedures by planning to evict villagers without a formal plan to resettle them. The bank had turned a blind eye to the horrific abuses unleashed onto the community, the report alleged. The following month, the bank announced an investigation into the allegations. After the bank announced it was suspending its funding of REGROW on Tuesday, executive director of Oakland Institute said the long overdue decision was a crucial step towards accountability and justice. Quote, it sends a resounding message to the Tanzanian government that there are consequences for its rampant rights abuses taking place across the country to boost tourism. The think tank said villagers who had been victims of gross human rights violations should now receive adequate and prompt reparations. It also said the bank must prevent the forced evictions of other villagers. The bank said it had robust policies in place to prevent any potential harmful impacts, and that it would continue to work with the authorities and the local communities to ensure all Black supported projects protect and improve the lives of Tanzanians. Allegations of abuse are not limited to tourism projects in the South. In recent years, groups like Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have accused the government of forcibly evicting thousands of Tanzanians from the Maasai ethnic group in order to develop a game reserve in the North region. The government has previously denied the allegations. So that's the article from the BBC News. Tanzania Tourism, World Bank for National Park Project. Should be topic number 5. Says, why can't the government of Tanzania let the people live in peace? Let me mix it up and start with Bwana on this one. Bwana, what say you?
Well, I think that this is this is only his specialty. This is only should specialize in this because he's living in situations so he probably know better, way better than I would. In terms of the only thing I know about Tanzania is Nyerere, and what Nyerere would have done back in the day. So this is not my specialty, Koku. I'll defer to Oni's expertise because he is closer to the situation than I am. So I'll defer to him.
All right, with that said, let's go to Oni. Oni, what say you?
Well, I mean, I'm just as close as you guys. I ain't never been to no Ruaha. I mean, it just sounds like, and that's the thing about the world, man. Like the world is not, it's not straightforward. I'll put it that way. or the quote, and I only do this because J. Rogers did, but to quote Shakespeare, I think it's a ratio. There are more things in heaven and earth than are in your philosophies. You know what I mean? Um, I've never heard of this at all, but it just sounds like maybe these people were paying people to expand a park, and it was expanding on another population, and that population was being assaulted and attacked in order to move. One of the things we don't take into account is again, we gotta, like I said, we talk about technologies around the world, right? One of the technologies that America had for since its inception was this idea of eminent domain, right? Eminent domain comes about because once upon a time, the Europeans, the European colonists were fleeing uh, England, or wherever they were fleeing, Dutch, whatever, but mostly England, because the king had unchecked powers. The executive branch had unchecked powers. They could seize your land and not compensate you. Okay, so the Americans developed this technology, which is eminent domain, which is this idea that the government cannot seize your land unless it compensates you. However, that technology is pretty unique to America. Now, it's a good technology, right? But it's pretty unique. So it might be that it doesn't exist in Tanzania, where in fact, realistically, the government can just seize your land and not compensate you. I don't know. That's probably something I should know since I have one here. But I don't fucking know. Either way, though, it sounds like like if we're to believe the stories, and that's BBC News, who knows, right? It sounds like people were getting their land seized, and that was a violation of international law, right? But not necessarily a local law. But I don't really have much else to say outside of why can't the government let the people live in peace? I mean, it sounded like this was an opportunity for them to expand a park that was generating some revenue, as opposed to a village that wasn't generating revenue. And the government took that chance. But this is the thing that we have to realize, that when we're talking about, why don't you build a refinery? Why don't you build an airport? Why don't you, build a train, a railway, what and so forth? You're talking about, eminent domain. You're talking about a country. You're talking, you're basically saying the same thing as, why don't you build a national park? In the sense of, you're talking about a country taking the initiative to expand the economy at the expense of somebody else's land, right, or somebody else's livelihood, for the greater good. And and another thing that you realize is that a lot of times people are not thinking in the ways of us, who are highly technologized in America, and they might be thinking in the ways of what they know and love, what they know and respect. Because I remember when I was in Ghana, like 2 years ago, I don't know, but when I was in Ghana, I was watching the news, and people were saying, well, what the government needs to focus on is expanding that Nkrumah memorial site, because that could generate tourism. And I'm just thinking to myself, who the fuck is coming to Ghana to see Nkrumah's memorial site? But people seriously sitting up talking about expanding tourism by improving this little rinky-dink memorial site, pouring money into that. So not everybody's going to have, even if everybody has the same goal, not everybody has the same method towards that goal. And that's really where this manifests. So, the same way that we want people to build a refinery, and we agree with the refinery because we're in heavily oil countries, right? Where oil is expensive, and we can sell oil for good to, like we in the West would love to buy oil for cheap, right? Now, here in Tanzania, I'll be honest with you guys, as far as I can tell, the oil is stupid cheap. Okay, the oil is stupid cheap. So they don't really see oil as a high profit. But on the other hand, you have this and by cheap I mean like $1. You know what I mean? Like $1 a gallon or some shit. I don't know. I mean, I can't tell, but it looks like $1 a gallon. But what I'm saying is that you have people who are like, hey, look, we can improve our economy by getting more tourists, and even that is going to take from other people. So you're always doing a calculus when you're at the top, and you always have to factor in these things. And then of course it becomes, well, if you're the leadership in Tanzania, how technologically advanced are you? Because if you look at America's leadership, America's presidents, and Congress people, they're all like 80 plus years old, and they're so out of sync with the technology of the day. But fortunately, America is so ahead technologically, and kind of open and free technology. Not really, but but because of that, America doesn't take any L's for that. Whereas, of course, you go to other countries where they don't have that sort of technological background, or those Silicon Valleys and what have you, and then you start to see, well, yeah, like they're not going to freaking compete at that level. They're not going to be making microchips tomorrow. Even if we all use computers, they're not going to do it. And that's it.
I appreciate that. Only Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, Oni. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? This is really crucial to hear it. You know what I'm saying? From your perspective, this is very, very critical. Like, you know what I'm saying? We appreciate it. Now, again, we talking about the World Bank. So, you know what I'm saying? It's already some, double-handedness. I mean, again, I think probably the articles it's just propaganda. It really is. It's not too much to talk about. It's just how white folks then promise you something and they're going to try to take it back and, try to use justifications about what you're doing wrong, how you're, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to play your rules for you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's, a lot of these parks that they want to make, I think I have a feeling that a lot of these become like artificial kind of parks, especially when they're like outside, inspired. It's like, again, some other people kind of looking at what you may want to do and kind of add on, and then, they'll probably put so much money into it and have so many white people come through trying to, like, check out, check out. And then it's like, it's African people can utilize the whole national park, system if they were to do that. And I don't know if they could just, if we did it in a way that we weren't trying to like sell aspects of nature in a way that, I don't know, that doesn't really, there's the gains are like how they don't really, you can have some people come through tourism, even if it's people from other countries. I mean, it's like, other places in Africa, it's not like, that's not, the people who are coming in making the money with the, this thing's privatized, private companies come in, do their own thing. And it's like, you got to make sure that the whole national park thing doesn't turn into a way of like preserving white comfort in the middle of Africa. That's all I want to say. I'm gonna pass.
Appreciate that, RBG. Let's hear from D Web. D Web, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think this is kind of if I'm reading the prompt correctly, it's kind of referring to the government. They talk about the government worker or the game officers on that park assaulting the people is the reason why that project has basically been deferred or canceled, right? I think that's kind of the gist of it. If I'm reading it correctly. So first and foremost, I'm gonna tell a quick story, right? So like my kids, first thing I taught them, right, when I'm going to the grocery store, as soon as they was able to read and stuff, right, is to look for certain like labels, right? First of all, check the label of anything you buy. And then first of all, and then second of all, check for any certain like keywords. Like you see fucking yellow number 5, you see high fructose corn syrup, you see different soy-based things. Put that shit back on the fucking shelf, right? It's poison, right? When you see the World Bank pop up, right? You know some fuckery is afoot, right? So this is a lesson in when you don't control your own funds and you're using other people's money, you don't have any control over your national currency, et cetera, et cetera. And honestly, you know, it's very hypocritical that they're so-called humanitarian now, the World Bank, whereas though, oh, we can't fund this certain project because you have rapes going on, you have, you know, violence going on, and we want to get this cleaned up before we can fund this project, right? When these the same people, you know, that fund Israel and what they're doing right now, these same people that fund Saudi and the things they do, the human violations they got, you know, Libya with their open market slave markets right now, right? These the same people that fund these different people, but all of a sudden with Tanzania, they're fucking humanitarian, they're Mother Teresa, right? So I say this, and then if people didn't notice, they talked about a game reserve as part of this project, right? When you talk tourism in Africa and you talk national parks, you're talking about the big money they get is from white people coming over there to shoot shit. That's literally what it is. They want to go over there. They want to shoot the lions. They want to shoot the big game. I seen them shoot giraffes. Who the fuck shoots giraffes? That's the most pussy shit I've ever heard in my life. But this is what they do, right? They go over there and they shoot shit and they bring the trophies home. We went to Africa and we shot shit. That's where the big money comes. It's not the safaris. The big money comes from the game, right? Game reserves. So to me, if you like really read the article and see the key words that they use in here, the things that they're referring to, it's a lot of hypocrisy involved in this whole thing. But that's really all I got, man.
I appreciate that, Webb. In the chat, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, one thing I want to read up on is how losing indigenous knowledge and culture moves you away from dealing with nature well. Some African cities are right next to natural habitats, and when they are next to natural habitats, people don't deal with animals well. There's a city in South Africa where baboons bully people because they feed them recklessly. I saw a video with them baboons touching up them folks and stuff. With that said, let's go to Black Steel, who's heard everything everyone had to say. What say you to all of it?
Well, first of all, thank you, Koku, for reading all that. Appreciate you doing that. So this is my concern with this issue, because this is so the government of Tanzania, they want to bring in tourism, right? Tourism dollars bring in a lot of money, right? But the problem is the Maasai people live on the land that they're trying to turn into a game reserve. So what they're doing is removing these people to create a game reserve. This is now the World Bank not going to pretend to be the heroes here. They're full of shit. We already know. But this thing about the Maasai being taken from their home has come from multiple sources. So I'm looking at this situation and I'm like thinking to myself, like, here we are on our mother continent, Africa, and these people who lived in this land probably forever. And in order to make a few dollars so white people can kill animals, they're willing to take these people off their land, kill them, if necessary, rape, rob, steal, kill, whatever. And to me, I'm thinking to myself, we have taken so much of white culture that now we're behaving like them. I think it was Garvey who said the black man must be careful to not drink all of the poison in Western society, Western civilization, and then die from the effects of it. So I think this is a case of black people trying. I mean, I'm sure you have the oligarchs and the rich people in Tanzania who are going to make millions of dollars for these safaris and whatnot, and they got to get these backwards tribesmen out of the way. And this is what these people have lived in this land forever. They've coexisted with the natural wildlife forever. Why is it so hard to where these people can't live there? That these African people can't stay on their home. Let them have their part, whatever. But why displace these people from their home? Why is it money is so important to you that you have to kill off people who look just like you. And eventually, once those animals are dead, they just move on. So now you're just literally just wiping out your natural resources for a few tourism dollars. What is the sense in that? It's really it's very short-sighted, if you ask me, on the part of Tanzania, of their government. But this is something I'm seeing in all African governments, where they have this short-sighted thing. Let's get some money now, and in the meantime, they're fucking it up for the future. It's a sad situation. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this front? If not, we'll go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight. I know Webb has to jet, so I appreciate Webb coming through. I know the wait was a little long between prompts, but thanks for coming through and adding your thoughts tonight. We appreciate you as always. We didn't get to hear from you, Webb, as when you guys will be live again. So if you're in the chat, just drop the next time you guys are going to be live. That'll be great. I'll read it on air. Should be topic number 4 says, is this how Nigerian government works? So this takes us to Twitter. As a post by Dan Bello, he says the trifecta of Nigerian problems. It's a minute. I'll play it twice.
Oh, we can't hear it.
I can't hear any sound.
Is it the case that you guys can't hear the audio?
No audio.
Okay. I just saw a notification in StreamYard saying that audio is not connected. So let's do it again. Let me stop sharing for a second. Let me share it again. I don't know why the audio stopped sharing. Not my fault. I'm going to try to play this. I'm not going to enlarge it because apparently some of the words are being cut. Let me make sure I can get most of the video in the screen. I think I could get it probably a little bit better. Let's see if that looks a little bit better. I guess it looks a little bit better. So I'll share my screen with you guys and we'll play it and we'll discuss it after.
Nice one. Duk wani rashin adalci da cin zalin da za ku ba za mu je mulki ba inda har za ku ba mu kuɗi. Sannan ba za mu kula da kasan mu ba yadda tsaro zai karanci ko kuma ku ringa samun security money. Ni kuma sai in hada baki da mutanen banza domin a karo rashin tsaro da yawa sai kuma kara maka a ciki. Win-win. 50-50.
Za mu ce musu duk wani mai kishin addini ya zabe ka. Sannan idan suka ce za su yi bori mu ce Allah ya hana haramun ne. Sannan idan ka zalunce su ko baka yi musu aiki ba mu ce su yi maka addu'a.
Za mu kawo da kai daga duk wani tauye hakkin bil'adama da za ka yi inda za ka ringa ba mu kuɗi. Nice one. Sannan za mu kwashe duka masu ilimin ku yadda talakawan ku su ci gaba da zama cikin yunwa. Kuma mu saka muku son kayan yadda tattalin arzikin ku ba zai taɓa ginuwa ba. Yauwa kaga idan talakan mu yana jin yunwa to kura shi ta fi sauki. Wannan haka yake.
Sai kai.
Kai. Bitam go. Subhanallah. Bitam.
Inna lillahi.
Subhanallah. Kai. Bitam. Duk wani rashin adalci da cin zalin da za ku ba za mu je mulki ba inda har za ku ba mu kuɗi. Sannan ba za mu kula da kasan mu ba yadda tsaro zai karanci ko kuma ku ringa samun security money. Ni kuma sai in hada baki da mutanen banza domin a karo rashin tsaro da yawa sai kuma kara maka a ciki. Win-win. 50-50. 50-50.
Za mu ce musu duk wani mai kishin addini ya zaɓe ka. Sannan idan suka ce za su yi bori mu ce Allah ya hana haramun ne. Sannan idan ka zalunce su ko baka yi musu aiki ba mu ce su yi maka addu'a.
Za mu kawo da kai daga duk wani tauye hakkin bil'adama da za ka yi inda za ka ringa ba mu kuɗi. Nice one. Sannan za mu kwashe duka masu ilimin ku yadda talakawan ku su cika da zama cikin yunwa. Kuma mu saka muku son kayan yadda tattalin arzikin ku ba zai taɓa ginuwa ba. Yau kaga idan talakan yana jin yunwa to kura shi ta fi sauki. Wannan haka yake.
Sai kai.
Kai. Bitam go. Subhanallah. Bitam.
Inna lillahi.
Subhanallah. Kai. Bitam.
Okay, hopefully you guys was able to pick up on the different factions that are in the hands of government too. I think that's wherever people are. I think that's basically how it goes down. But that's definitely one of our problems as African people globally. But the question, as the prompt says, is this how Nigerian government works? I think most of these African countries that have these different people groups within them, I think it works pretty much like that. Let me start Black Steel on this one. Black Steel, what say you?
Yikes. I'm assuming this is part of the way Nigeria does work, because I know Nigeria has a big problem with corruption, right? That's one of the issues that is really causing the country to be as poor as it is, because there's great wealth produced from the resources, but then what happens when the wealth doesn't get taken down to benefit the average Nigerian person? And then there's the certain tribes that got for their own ethnic group, and then I definitely think that's how it's happening. Like, this man is smiling as he counting the money because he's getting his pockets lined. I don't know what could be done about a problem like this. This is something that is going to take a cultural revolution. I think that's something that is going to have to be done in Africa. Is that there's going to have to be similar to how Mao did when he took over after the communist revolution, is that we got to eliminate the reactionary elements within our society, because if we don't, we're going to continue to have this same problem coming up in our society if we don't do a way to deal with these people who have no desire to help anyone but themselves. They have to be taken out, either locked up, and I don't mean locked up as you pay off the guard, you can get some benefit. The problem is that the corruption is because nobody's making enough money. So, and then you offer to give somebody enough money that can feed their family for a year. Of course they're going to take it. You got to deal with this endemic corruption in the society if you're going to have any benefit. All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
I'm sorry, I kind of stepped away for a second. I mean, he has a okay, is that supposed to represent like how I'm sorry, I kind of missed. I'm just watching it right now.
All right, I'll go to
that seems about accurate. It seems pretty corporal how they handle things. People just like kind of get beat, and just kind of like the people look at it as a spectacle. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really wish Nigeria wasn't run the way it was. I understand a lot of what's going on with Nigeria. It's intentionally divided. Like when Nigeria was founded, the British put a lot of stock in the people in the north, just cause for whatever reason. They made the northerners, they hadn't, even to this day, Britain has this fixation with Arabism and Lawrence of Arabia type stuff. They favor the north. So, I mean, the Yorubas, the Idos, the tribes in the south, they didn't get to play even though like the capital wasn't like in Lagos, because I mean the administrators even to this day have a northern bent to it. Like the North has, you know, they have a lot of power in Nigeria. It's ridiculous. How it works, I mean, it's there's a lot of just, you know, not very much, you know, wherewithal in Nigeria. I mean, a lot of the, you know, the people with money, the elites, they send their kids out of the country to learn. They, you know, the leaders wind up having, you know what I'm saying, a Western bent to them. Then they come back and kind of like, they're not talking to the people who are living the culture on the ground and doing what they do. And, you know, there's like 80,000 tribes in Nigeria. Nigeria was never meant to be as it is. I mean, even you can sit there and try to like draw it out and say, "Oh, that's a nice sized country." Ooh, but it's just, you know, when you have people and you have a lot of different people, sometimes you just have small countries and you have big countries. If you know, Nigeria, I don't think works. I mean, for the best of my knowledge, it just does not work. And the people in Nigeria who want it to work only want it to work because they have an advantage because of it. I just don't see how. I mean, you know, the briberies. I mean, there was an incident where, you know, the soldiers shot up the one of the tolls in Nigeria a couple of years ago. It's wild. I mean, there's chaos. I don't see the order in Nigeria. I think the best thing for it, I think it's too much for any administrator to handle when you see a Nigeria, like what capacity do they have to manage all of those people? I would say it's just best to again, like the people, too many people want to let Nigeria dissolve into, again, it's a slippery slope, but I mean, I would say you could naturally do two countries if you just like split it down the rivers. But again, this goes back to the North having they call it some born to rule type stuff, in which they don't want to let South go because Nigeria is Nigeria. Like, how dare you? And, you know, because they have an advantage, you know, a lot of the oil that's down south, like the North has their hands in it. It's a mess. I'm gonna pass the mic.
I appreciate that, RBG. I had a problem finding the mute button. With that said, let's have from Buana. Buana, is this how Nigerian government works?
Yes, this is how Nigerian government works. Why? Because the Nigerian government is a Western modeled government. The Nigerian government was created by Lord Lugard and his ilk from the Westminster system and style of government. It's almost as if you take off an African robe and you are put on a European robe and trying to function. It's almost like you ever see a bear. You ever see a bear at a circus? And a bear at a circus, they put a human hat on a bear and try to make it like ride on a bicycle, do human actions. And then the bear one day starts biting and trying to beat up on the human beings. It's like you are trying to ask an African nation or a nation of African people who's been there for centuries before the European colonization came in to act as if they are Europeans or a European style government or governance. Of course it's going to devolve into madness. Of course it is. Because these countries are not African governments. They are European governments installed in an African context. Of course it's not going to work. Of course it's going to be ineffective because it's not being created by the minds of the people who've been living on that ground for centuries. This is the problem of colonization. And to the outside world, of course it looks ridiculous. Of course it looks ridiculous. But no one questions the fact that these governments are created by European powers, Western powers. It should not exist. It should not exist. Have you ever seen a black man walk into a courtroom with a European head thing, the thing that they wear to go to court, that white thing. It looks ridiculous. It's out of place. It's out of place, Koku. These things shouldn't exist. So the African man trying to organize his people and run governance over a culture, they're trying to spread a European sheet over a culture that existed there for centuries prior to them, the Europeans coming there. You have Igbo, you have Hausa, you have Yoruba, you have all these cultural groups, distinctive cultural groups with their own policies, laws, traditions, prior to Lord Lugard ever coming there. And then he comes there and say, this is how you all should run this territory. We're going to take out the territorial lines. We're going to create this idea called Nigeria, nigger area, and say, y'all the country now function. Of course it's going to devolve into madness. Why would an African man pretend to be a European man and going out and trying to execute European policies, traditions, laws, and customs in Nigeria? Of course it's going to devolve into madness. And I don't like the idea of these people putting corruption always on the African continent, as if European societies are not corrupt. To its core. You have you have now the police officer. I don't even want to talk about the innumerable amount of court cases that get swept under the rug when police officers go out and murder black men and women on the streets of America, and it gets swept under. Is that not corruption? We ain't even going into what the American politician or the European politician, the English politician, the Canadian politician does on a daily basis. That's really, we ain't even could get into the corruption that they get into. But they live with the African continent with corruption. Everything what the African governments do is corrupt, but nothing what they do is corrupt. Give me a break. Give me a break. We learned corruption from the Europeans. You know what they used to say about the Africans prior to the Europeans coming there? They say that there was a man called Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta, when he used to go throughout he was an Islamic scholar person. He used to go and investigate the world. He was an explorer. He said that you could leave an item out in the open in Africa and leave to go to the so-called call of prayer, and by the time you come back, you will find that same item there. The mindset of Africans is not corrupt. Where do we get these ideas and ideologies from? Where do we get these? We get it from somewhere, and there's blame to be placed on specific people. Now, I believe as adults, that we should grow into the tradition of taking responsibility for our own actions. But we learn these customs from other places. These are foreign customs that they put on the black man and say, y'all are corrupt because this is what y'all do. Nigeria is a group of different African kingdoms coming together to formulate this country called Nigeria. But prior to that, they were distinctive and apart from one another. So, like I say, of course, it's going to devolve into madness. But we are not the author of this madness, because the mindset is that these black people can't run the governments for themselves. It's some of these elites who are trying to create a narrative in the world that we are going to function under the rubric or umbrella of a so-called Nigerian government, nigger area government. But the reality is these are distinctive groups of people coming together. We need to really create an African government. Nigeria is not an African government, I can say that again. Nigeria is not an African government. These are African people coming together, but Nigeria, the term itself wasn't even created by the black people who actually lived there. So why are we getting this label of corruption put on us? Come on, man. I think that black people should look a little bit deeper beneath the surface of things and understand what's actually going on. There's a reason why the people of us try to separate and create a nation state called Biafra, by the way. It's a joke. It's a joke, but it'll continue to exist like this until some black people develop balls and say, we are going to define ourselves as African people, and we can have African laws and traditions and customs, and we're going to create this narrative within it. We're going to do away with the Berlin Conference idea of what Africa is supposed to be, and we're going to create our own narrative. Then you will see an actual African government. But right now, what you see functioning is a European-style government functioning in a black continent. Of course it's going to be backwards. Of course it's going to be backwards. And it'll never equate to something that should be functional, because if the foundation is bad, the rest of the house will continue to be bad. But don't put no label of corruption on us, because we didn't start from corruption. They start from corruption. And they continue in their corruption and spreading their corruption around the world. But when they look at the black man, all they can see is corrupt government. Don't give me that label, brother. Don't give me that label. Keep that label for yourself, because the last time I checked, the black man been in prison. You see these situations where the black man been in prison in the West for 50 and 60 years, come to find out he ain't never commit the crime. Because the prosecutor and the judge and the whole judicial system collude together to lock the black man up solely because he black, with no evidence. With no evidence. You talk about corruption. But I am ranting right now. I go on way, of course. I'm sorry, Koku. I'm getting into another thing. I apologize. Koku, you could go and go to the other person. But I'm sorry. I'm done, Koku.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. Trigger Happy 262 Plus in the chat says, sorry. Sorry about that. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, Black people have inherited Indo-European states, economies, and some of their culture or cultural philosophy. He says the quintessential Berlinist state pits ethnic groups against each other by putting one ethnic group over other ethnic groups in order to subsume all surrounding ethnic groups into erasure. So RBG was talking about how much stock they put into the north of Nigeria. The Britons did. Trigger Happy goes and says, many European nation states are defined as nation states because they destroy other ethnic groups and subsume them into erasure. This subsequently causes future conflicts, for example, Catalonia versus Spain. By the way, I think Wano was saying about how Africans could leave something and come back sometime later and find it. My grandmother used to say the same thing about where we're from. You could have left your door staring wide open, she would say. And no one will walk in your house. So it's not like African people are just this immoral people. We learned that shit from someone else. So I agree with Buana's sentiment. Last but not least, let's hear from Oni on this one. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, so, when you're talking about Nigeria, you're also talking about, like at this point in time, you're talking about Buhari and Tinubu, okay? Tinubu is the current president since 2023, and he stole that election. And Buhari was his predecessor from 2015, right? Buhari is 10 years older than Tinubu. Tinubu is 72 years old, okay? Tinubu has a background where he, let's say, they said in 1993, Illinois court judgment made him forfeit $460,000 from 2 bank accounts. Why? In connection to an investigation of $2 million in several of Tinubu's bank accounts for heroin trafficking in Chicago. Heroin trafficking in Chicago. I'm bringing this up not because, whatever. I'm bringing this up because when, it relates to the earlier conversation about, why don't we, build these oil refineries? It's like, who are you asking to build the oil refineries? Because if you're asking Tinubu, allegedly, let's say, right? Just because I'm in the continent, right? But allegedly, a guy who was drug trafficking in Chicago, America, okay, who's apparently his professional background relates to working for Mobil Oil in Nigeria, okay, as a company executive, Mobil. So that's Exxon Mobil, right? This guy, you expect him to build a refinery for the people, or do you expect him to pay the military, pay the church, pay the Westerners, and pay himself? Because again, when you drug trafficking in Chicago, okay, that's a big difference from like you can't not to say that you've been a drug trafficker or whatever, and it's more to say that we have to start coming to terms with a lot of the leadership in Africa. I call them Askaris, right? A lot of the leadership in Africa are Askari, put it that way. A lot of them are traders, a lot of them are Western agents, a lot of them are on that fuck shit time. You talking about if like I said, I used to go to Brownsville a couple of times, right? Brownsville's the hood in Brooklyn, one of the hoods in Brooklyn, right? If you were to say put the leadership in the hands of a local gang leader, right, and then make them negotiate on behalf of the people of Brownsville, what would that look like? Or is it going to be, polytechnic universities? Is it going to be, skyscrapers? I don't know. I don't know. Or is it going to be, we're going to get some hoes and bitches? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that what it is? And, you got to come to, like, we're going to get some drugs, hoes, and bitches. That's what you got to figure out. If you were really putting, like, because this guy, if he's a drug trafficker of heroin in Chicago, he's not on that same time that we want from, my brother from another mother, Ibrahim. Right? So Ibrahim, of course, that dude's actually, I think he's laying the groundwork for some sort of industry, as we speak. Not even like he already broke ground on building an industry as we speak. But that's where you come up with this reality that people have to be politically disciplined. And you got to say to yourself, what kind of political discipline do the leaders in Africa right now have? What political discipline do Buhari have? What political discipline does Tinubu have? And that's where the question comes in, because you could always pay a bunch of people around you, but you also need to have some sort of political discipline, some sort of political ideology, some sort of political education, because as I guess Thomas Sankara put it, anybody without, like, a soldier without a political education is just a potential criminal. And that's how it is for all of us. Anybody without a political education is really just a potential criminal. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well done, Oni. Well done. Anyone has any last thoughts on this prompt? All right. Well, let's go to the final prompt of the night. We're going to end around 11 tonight. I want to thank everyone who was here tonight, everyone who participated in the chat. If you're still out there, please continue to participate. It makes the conversation even better, makes it more of a dialogue. I want to thank the panelists, of course, Black Steel, Oni, Real Black Gentleman, Buana, Kofi was here earlier, Uzuli was here as well. Uzuli, if you're still out there listening, join us for this last one. And Bakari was here as well. I want to thank all of you who participated. Should read something number 5 says, why are we still blaming the white man for the downfall of the black man? Why did they let him win? So this comes with a link to YouTube. It's about a 5-minute video. We'll watch it, 5-6-minute video. We'll watch it, and then we'll discuss.
Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and the conversation.
There is a huge controversy at the Beijing Half Marathon in China, and the controversy revolves around the Chinese man that won and the 3 African brothers that allowed him to win. Well, at least that's what it looks like. Watch this clip. We'll come back and discuss.
是的，差不多1小时4分左右的水平。嗯，还有最后的一段路，终点就在前方，何姐加油！是的，我们看4个人很有默契呀、对，在今天的这个全程当中，这4个人都是一直保持在一起。是的，而且有沟通，有交流。这样是不是也是选手之间的一种相互促进？是的，我们说积极的一种促进。哇，越跑越快啊！何洁在最后是完全冲刺了起来。我们来看看他最后的成绩啊！恭喜何洁获得了我们冠军啊！他最终的成绩应该是1小时0。
Organizers of the Beijing Half Marathon are investigating the men's race after 2 Kenyans and 1 Ethiopian runner appeared to deliberately allow China's He to win. So the footage you just watched is self-explanatory, but in case it was not that clear, you can see one of the runners, the Kenyan, signaling, almost showing him, okay, go this way. And also, you can see at some point, one of the runners actually holding back the others, like signaling, slow down. And the poor Chinese man is trying his best. Have you seen his face? He is in a lot of pain. He is so tired. I want to show you a picture as I'm saying this so you can actually see what's going on. 3 of them, 2 Kenyan brothers and 1 Ethiopian runner. You can see their face. It looks like they're just jogging, right? But the Chinese runner, he is in tears. He is in a lot of pain and he's doing his best. That is what the picture shows and the video as well. That's what it suggests. And from their signaling and from them slowing down, it looks like they allowed him to win. Now, why did they allow him to win? We don't know. They're investigating and we have to guess it's 1 or 2 things, right? Either they were promised money or someone threatened them. It's one of the 2, because why in the world would they allow this man to win? As you know, in the world, in long distance running, Ethiopians and Kenyans are undefeated. Usually the competition is between the 2, or sometimes another East African country might join in and get in the top 3, but it rarely happens because that's what we're good at. That's what we're known for, basically. And for this Chinese man to win, first of all, it's suspicious on its own, but to actually watch the video and see how he won, it just can be 1 or 2 things, as I said. But they said they're investigating. Some Chinese people I've seen on social media were even calling this out and saying this is embarrassing for our country. Why did we even go down this road? Because it's kind of clear what's really happening here. There's no way this man lost to this Chinese man. There is not a drop of sweat on them. They're just casually jogging as they're like, oh my God, can you just move along so we can come behind you? You can tell in the video, at least, it looks like they are working so hard, forcing themselves to slow down because it was that easy for them. But him, he tried his best. He ran, even with the help that he was given, it looks like he barely made it. And at the finish line, if you've noticed, he just collapses. He's so tired. He goes down to the ground, but the others, the 3 of them, are just jogging, patting him on the back, saying, you did well, good job. And they're just walking away from the run. So yeah, that's why there was a huge controversy behind this half marathon in China. And currently they're saying that they're investigating. We'll keep you updated what they find out. But yeah, our brothers probably said, you know, it's not like we get money anyways. We might as well tap into this and get money off of it, which is not right because this is corruption at the end of the day. But that's our guess. But we will wait and see what the investigation concludes. Anyways,
Interesting story. Oni say he looked it up on Wikipedia. Allegedly, the Kenyans aren't even in the race. That's their story, though, so we're not sure about it. Let me start with Oni. Oni, what's your take on this prompt that says, why are we still blaming the white man, the yellow man, for the downfall of the black man? Why did they let him win? What say you to that?
Well, yes, like I said, I decided to look up Heat Heat from Fiji, I guess. I don't know. The story that they're going with, one of the Kenyans at least, is saying he said he was a pacemaker for Heat. Not unusual in road races, as that was whatever. He says, my agent from Kenya told me when I was going to get the visa that I'm going to China to help the Chinese break the national record, their own national record. But of course, the Beijing people are saying they weren't registered as pacemakers, And then there's another story. I couldn't access it because I don't have South China Morning Post, I guess. But the headline is something along the lines of, one of the Kenyan runners says the other guy was his friend or something like that. You know what I mean? Like the Chinese guy was his friend, which of course, that's us calling anybody friend. But I would say this, this is like, I'm not really into sports like that. So I feel like we might be focusing too much on sports. It seems like if you're going to go, like anybody who's doing sports, especially on a competitive level, anybody who's doing sports or entertainment on a competitive level, they're doing it for money. They're not doing it for the glory of the victory, to say, oh yeah, my race is the fastest race on the planet, or I'm the fastest person, on the planet. They're doing it for the money. Now, I'm not saying now everybody, obviously, Usain Bolt probably, wouldn't take probably say, look, I'm the fastest man on the planet, boom. But these guys, especially if you're talking about Kenya, Ethiopia, you're just a runner, like you got no real economic, skill outside of competing for races. Like, yeah, if you as Bonner put it, you're making a business decision, and I'm saying that, we kind of sit up and criticize people for, running along with, somebody else for money, right? But that's kind of like what we do with our CEOs. Now, I'm not saying CEOs don't do shit, because they obviously do. But what I mean is that, when you're an employee of somebody, you are, running alongside them as they take the gold. You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm thinking about opening up a restaurant, right? A different one, so I can have my own. You know what I mean? I can sell whatever the fuck I want, do whatever I want, right? But I'm thinking to myself, if I paid a worker, a certain amount of money, right? And I paid a chef. And I paid a chef and the waitress a certain amount, or waiter, waitress, whatever, a certain amount of money, right? That's two people. And it's not going to be that much money. But if the business does well, if I make my good executive decisions, right? I'll be making, let's say 5 times as much as the 2 people working there. And I'm not going to be working there, right? I'm saying that to say that they're going to be like these Kenyans and Ethiopians who say, hey, look, we'll help you along. We'll be the pacemakers. We'll help you along. We'll cook your meal. We'll engage your customers. And then you get the gold. Now, of course, I think it's fair because I'm going to be the one buying all the equipment. I'm going to be the one renting the space. You know what I mean? I'm going to be doing all that shit. I'm going to buy the stove. I'm going to buy the fridge. I'm going to organize the menu. I'm going to do this. Get the right cut of meat and all that type of shit. But my point is that all of us do that with our employees, Sorry, all of us do that with our employers. And so yeah, if you're running for money, and so if it's the chance that when you get the gold medal, you get $50 in a handshake, but if you let the Chinese boy win, you get $5,000 and whatever, take the $5,000. Because like what else are you gonna do? You get the $50 and then what? You can't even get back to Kenya with that shit. That's it.
Sorry, I appreciate that. Only last but not least, I guess, is Buana.
It's gonna drop.
Yeah, so Koku, there was a famous athlete from Jamaica. Her name was Merlene Audie. I don't know if you remember her. Now, Merlene Audie was, she was an Olympic premier athlete, top of the top. Well, if you know anything about her history, she stopped running for Jamaica and started running for one of these Eastern European countries. She made a business decision because Jamaica, the country, wasn't really effectively paying her the money that Eastern European countries paying her. Is that right or wrong? There is a difference between a race when we running in a real actual race and a race of life. Now, if I ask myself, if I let this Chinese guy win, the Chinese government is gonna lace me with maybe a house, maybe a substantial amount of money, these kinds of other things, and to let this guy win. This is a race. I run for a living. This one race. I'm in Beijing. I make him look good. They pay him. They're gonna compensate me a whole lot of money for it. Is that Chinese corruption? That's what they have to deal with. But for me, as a business person, I am calculating whether me winning this race is gonna benefit me by the Kenyan government give me a $50 in a handshake, as opposed to Chinese government who have the wherewithal. They are gonna give me money to pay for my house, a down payment on a house, where I can live good, and maybe some other kinds of treats. What I'm trying to say is that Black people in real world situations, when we do business with each other, we must respect our skill set. We must respect what we do. We must give our people, pay our people sufficiently the monies that they rightfully deserve. It's nowhere in the world that Olympic-style athletes should be getting paid peanuts. Many of our athletes who was running the Olympics, they had to keep a day job. They had to keep a day job and still run for the country who say, well, they are representing. Many of our athletes, it's like, but these guys over here, they say, well, you don't have to work all day. You don't have to, we'll pay your existence. All you need to do is run for your profession. I think that we as a community, we need to take an interest into the different talents that we have and be willing to pay people for the different talents that we have, not shortcut them, because we don't consider it to be an important thing or important feature within our communities. Within our communities, we should pay our people. You know how much shortcutting and side deals when I'm as far as my business goes, where Black people, try to scam me out of, but the white folks say, you know what, this the price, I'll pay you for it. No sweat, Buana. No sweat. So our allegiances, because of that situation, get kind of hairy. unless you a Gaviite, you want to stick to the man who is paying you the most money. And that's an unfortunate thing. But I believe that within our community, we need to respect our talents. We need to respect our skill sets and be willing to pay people for the services that we provide them for, and not try to shortcut, because they'll have situations like this and it look bad and it look corrupt and it look ridiculous. But if the Kenyan government would have been as willing to do the things that they would need to do, then they would run for Kenya and say, you know what, China, keep your money. Keep your money. We just trying to win. We're trying to make a fair situation. But if you give me $50 in a handshake, what you think? How come? Then the brothers from Kenya and Ethiopia are gonna start making business decisions. They can start making business decisions. Goku. Am I mad at them for that? I don't think so. I don't think so, brother. I don't think so. I don't think so. Call it what you want to call it. I don't think so. There was a cyclist in in America. I forget his name now. He used to ride a bicycle throughout the world. He was a very famous cyclist until they found out he was taking performance drugs. performance drugs. But I don't think that he had to give back the money. I mean, he may have lost his career. Lance Armstrong. Yes, Lance Armstrong. I don't think that he lost his money. And the truth is, maybe he may have fell out of favor, but the white community would have forgiven him enough where he kept a lot of his money. And people still was interviewing him. They didn't take everything away like they did with the black runner who was running for the United States. They didn't take everything away from him and put him in prison. Lance Armstrong, I don't think he never see a day of prison. Marion Jones going to jail, I think. Marion Jones going to jail. So they played the game different. They play the game different. So I see that, you must pay our community. We must pay the people for the services that we provide for them. The fair market value. Usain Bolt shouldn't be running for just a Jamaican dollars, man. Pay him what the market would pay him for. And then he wouldn't have to go run for some of the other country or be a prostitute for American corporation. He'd be selling Jamaican products rather than American products from white corporations. Pay them what they deserve. And that's sometimes how to galvanize loyalty. Because the brothers them have to feed their families. They want to eat too. Give them some recompense for the things that they are providing for your community and for others as well, people who live in the community, to represent you. That's what I would say to this particular thing. But I'll leave it there to let the other brothers rock.
Now, I think you were the last person I needed to get an original comment from. Is there anything anyone else would like to add to what they heard? All right, then. Well, that's the show for tonight. I want to thank everyone who was involved tonight. Those of you who have been on the panel tonight, I want you to stay here for a second. Let me shout out RBG in the chat. Of course, Oni's in the chat. Harsh Reality, KW Dawn 7, Trick Hobby 262 Plus, Jonelle, Jose was out there tonight. Who am I missing? Bakari was out there in the chat tonight. And if I'm missing anyone else, forgive me for missing your name, but all you guys out there in the chat tonight, adding to the conversation, I appreciate you. You can still add to the conversation in the comment section once the show posts. So please do that. You could direct your comments to certain people from the panel if you want. Please do that. Let's keep the conversations going. But for those of you who are still here on the panel tonight, want to get a shout out from you. Could be something positive you saw in the black world, something personal to yourself, whatever it is. Let's talk with Black Steel.
Well, shout out to tomorrow's Mother's Day. So shout out all the mothers, black mothers out here. Shout out my mom out. Shout out all the mothers who might be listening tonight. Thank you for all the hard work and sacrifices you give us every day. Thank you. Great show tonight. Appreciate you.
Thank you for being here, Black Steel. Great contributions from you. Oni, what would you like to shout out this week?
Shout out my brother from another mother, Ibrahim. The leader of Burkina Faso, he's doing it. That's a brother who you can expect to build a refinery. You know what I mean? He just made a call for, somebody says maybe like an immigration act, but he's like, yo, if you want that time of African liberation, you on that time of Pan-Africanism, come through. He's like, come through. Now, I think that maybe they speak French in Burkina Faso. So, if you feel like you're not comfortable with French, then, obviously I don't blame you for not going, anybody who's listening. But if you are comfortable in French and you want to go, I would say, look, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Because when we talk about, because I could even say this, somebody made like a spiritual, preserve African spirituality type institution for quite a bit of money, like a pretty penny for like preserving African spirituality in Burkina Faso. So like this dude's putting his money where his mouth is, and he's on that time. So if you're on that time and you know, like I said, if you can speak French, or even if you're just willing to be around that, you know, I would say go, you know, I would say take the opportunity, you know, if you feel like, you know, like if you feel like that's it, that's your speed. That's about it. That's it though.
I appreciate that, Oni. I saw you post about that earlier today or yesterday, and I appreciate that post on Twitter. Yeah, I appreciate your words on that too. You guys make sure to subscribe to Oni's channel, The Pro Black Perspective. He probably will be on Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you tune into his show. I'm usually there as well as Real Black Gentleman. Real Black Gentleman, what would you like to shout out this week?
I'm just gonna shout out those who are like us, those who know. Those who know. I'm just gonna shout out those who are like us, man. Yeah, just shouting out all the people who keeping the world in check, just making sure that representing Black people and not letting other people misrepresent us, and you know what I'm saying, just keeping the standard going. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm gonna say.
Keep the standard going. That makes me want to shout out Brother Bakari for the show he did earlier today. What's the standard? That's an important question we have to have. That's a foundational question, in my opinion. What's the standard here? What's our standard? So make sure check out Bakari, his channel, and his broadcast earlier today. Last but not least, let's get Buana. Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, first, shout out to all the mothers in the Black world, all my American moms, listening in, all my Jamaican moms, all my Bahamian, Ghanaian moms, Guyanese moms, Haitian moms. Shout out to all the moms in the Black world, African moms on the continent itself, who are raising and breeding a lot of beautiful Black folks. We love you all. Bawana loves you all day long. No matter what no one says, y'all keep on doing a yeoman's job, and we gonna make it. We're gonna make it in this world, and we're gonna show you all your efforts have not been in vain. We're gonna show you all the mothers out there. We love you all. Shout out to my brother Koku for raising another generation of scholars and putting that out there in the world. We know that situation will be successful. So shout out to him and his endeavors in pouring into that scenario and producing another generation of scholars and scholarship. And also, I would like to say that remember the brothers and sisters, remember Koku in your thoughts in terms of making your contributions to him. Remember the matron in your thoughts and making your contributions to her. People who are trying to work little by little by little. Little by little, the jug gets full. Little by little, you can eat a whole elephant, bite by bite by bite. It don't take, one bite. It should take 100 different bites that'll eat a big elephant. So sometimes that's how it have to work. But shout out to everyone on the panel who's given great contributions tonight, and we'll see you all next week.
Absolutely. On that note, I'll talk to you guys next week. In the meantime, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.